It's the Mixed Martial Arts Hour with
The Mixed Martial Arts Hour back in your life on this Monday, August 24th, 2015. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ariel Helwani inside our New York City studio. Thank you so very much for joining us. We are about 13 hours or so removed from UFC Fight Night Saskatoon, the UFC's debut in beautiful Saskatchewan, the Paris of the Prairies. And it was a fun event. It's always weird watching a UFC event on a Sunday. Everything seems off. I'm not used to coming on around 12 hours later to talk about it, but it's a lot of fun because it feels like this is the post-fight show. Somewhat delayed post-fight show. But it makes for a tricky time because one of the big stories last night coming out of that event, the sudden retirement of Frankie Perez, 26 years old, wins his first UFC fight, improves to 10-2, I believe, knocks out Sam Stout, wins a bonus, so he's now $50,000 richer, and in the cage, he just retires. And I loved it. I loved everything he had to say. How often in combat sports do you see a young man, mid-20s, pick up his first UFC win, reaches the goal that he has been striving for, and then just walks away? Usually we see guys stick around a little too long. I mean, in that fight alone, the juxtaposition of both careers was fascinating. You have one guy who we now think is sticking around probably a little too long, and another guy who's leaving before he really gets to realize his potential. And so I wanted to have him on the show today, but he's traveling. That's the problem with the Sunday show. My colleague Chuck Mindenhall spoke to him. That article will be up in a matter of moments later on today on MMAfighting.com. Interesting things he had to say, and a very memorable way to end one's career. We'll see if he actually sticks to it. But of course, the big news last night coming out of Saskatchewan, the main event that we had all been looking forward to, the people's main event, one of those rare times where the people's main event is the real main event. Max Holloway, Charles Oliveira. It ends on a very sour note. Charles Oliveira, according to a report from MMA Junkie and other outlets, suffered a micro tear in his esophagus. Now, that could be potentially fatal, and you see the way he reacted to it, somewhat of a delayed reaction. That is super scary stuff. He told our own Guilherme Cruz that he had been battling a neck injury heading into this fight, thought he was 100%. I guess it's related. Who knows? I'm not a doctor, but that is scary. Esophagus tear? I mean, just saying it is very painful. So we hope he recovers. We hope he's okay. It's not the way we wanted the fight to go. It's not the way anyone thought the fight would go. Certainly, I saw some people criticizing Max Holloway for the way he celebrated. You have to understand that these are guys and women who, are training 8, 9, 10 months for these fights. It all leads to this crescendo. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. There's a lot going on. And when you notice that you had just, won a fight, you're victorious, you're going to celebrate for a second. But you see Max Holloway afterwards, you see the way he, seemed concerned and was really unable to fully appreciate his victory. You understand that this is a human being who was just reacting in the moment. He was happy, wanted to celebrate with his family, loved ones, cage side. Cut the guy some slack. We don't know what's going on in their minds. And I don't think that makes him seem like, a bad person or an asshole or anything like that. He reacted. He thought he did something that led to the victory. Maybe he did. It seems in hindsight that it was just a freak injury, an unfortunate injury, and he was just reacting to the fact that, hey, he trained and he won a fight, and now he can continue his career. He has a very nice winning streak, and it's going to be interesting to see what the UFC does with him. Do they do the rematch? Do they go in a different direction? He asked for Frankie Edgar in Hawaii. There's a few ways that the UFC can book Max Holloway now. So we'll talk about that and a whole lot more. Another busy week in the world of mixed martial arts in the books. Big news, Ronda Rousey breaking some news on Good Morning America on Friday, announcing that she'll be fighting Holly Holm, not Miesha Tate, not Amanda Nunes, Holly Holm, January 2nd, UFC 195. There's that. There's UFC 193. A ton to get to, so let's get into it. Today's show, another stacked one. As always, want to hear from you around 3:45. Hit us up using the hashtag #VMMA Hour. Leave a question or comment in the comment section below. At 3:25, we're going to talk to Mike Winklejohn, who, of course, is the longtime head coach and mentor for one Holly Holm. I want to get his thoughts on this title fight. Is she ready? How does he see it going down? All that stuff. So looking forward to have Coach Wink, a straight shooter, if you will. This is a guy who doesn't sugarcoat his answers. I like that. Efrain Escudero stops by at 3:05. He's a coach on Tough Latin America 2. That premieres on Fight Pass on Wednesday, and he's also fighting in Monterrey in November. Great story there. Dan Hardy, speaking of great stories, he's got a great one to tell at 2:45. He's embarking on a pretty serious endeavor coming up very soon. Looking forward to talking to him at 2:45. 2:25, Michael Bisping, who it was announced last week will be fighting Robert Whittaker, UFC 193, perhaps the biggest show in UFC history. They're shooting for $70K in Melbourne. Etihad Stadium. That's a big one. Michael Bisping will join us at 2:25, of course, coming off that big win over Talis Leitish in Scotland last month. Carlos Condit's in the main event of UFC 193. Excuse me, I was thinking of 129, which up until this date, up until 193, still the reigning and defending biggest show in UFC history, but that could change come November. He's going to join us at 2:05 to talk about Robbie Lawler and that big welterweight title fight. 1:45, we're going to talk to Ali Abdel-Aziz, WSOF Executive Vice President. He has some news to break. That's always exciting. And at 1:25, we're going to have Luke Rockhold on. Of course, last week on the show, we had Chris Weidman on, had some very interesting things to say about his opponent at 194, Luke Rockhold. Going to get his response and a whole lot more at around 1:25. But first, let us go to the phone lines and welcome in my good pal, host over at the Fight Network, also does great work on live audio wrestling, 1,000 podcasts, fellow Canadian John Pollock joins us right now from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. John, are you there?
I'm here, Ariel. It's great to be here on the Heyman Hustle with you.
Yes. What do you think of that, by the way? My little cameo. The first ever guest host in the history of the critically acclaimed Heyman Hustle. What do you think?
I liked it. It was Ariel Helwani, the advocate for the advocate.
Yes, that's very well said. I got to say, I had fun. It wasn't quite 100% heel. It was kind of dipping my toe into the heel waters, so to speak. But it was fun. I mean, if someone's going to acknowledge where it all started, it might as well be Paul Heyman. It didn't go his way last night in Brooklyn. And we'll get to that in a second. But that's a great segue because I want to ask you, between SummerSlam last night, UFC Fight Night Saskatoon last night as well, and NXT TakeOver on Saturday, what was the best show of the weekend in your opinion?
Oh, the best show of the weekend? I would say the TakeOver special on Saturday. I just thought it was such a well-presented event. I think they have the entire NXT experiment has been something that I think is really fascinating to watch. What the WWE has grown, where you've essentially created your own underground indie under the WWE umbrella, where this audience, they believe they are going to a non-WWE show and selling 15,000 tickets, however many tickets they sold on Saturday night. This is not just some small niche. This is a successful brand now that they have created, which has been their goal dating back to 2002 when they did the original brand split.
Do you think the UFC could pull something like this off?
I think they kind of did to a degree with the WEC, but the problem was I always felt there was a ceiling to the WEC where the brand you wanted to be promoting, the hotter brand, was the UFC. You had all of these excellent fighters, but I think that there was an audience that it was UFC or nothing for them, and that was why they eventually just merged everything together and promoted it under the stronger brand. I don't know if there's necessarily that need for the UFC to create some kind of sub-brand. I think we're kind of getting that now within the different tiered fight cards that we see every month.
It would be interesting, though, if the UFC created this underground promotion with no, Reebok rules, no USADA, all the stuff that gets the internet fans in a tizzy, and see the way the market reacts to it. You know what I mean? Like almost, creating their own competition, of course, and Bellator is doing a pretty good job of that right now. But could you imagine if they did? They probably would never do that because why split your resources? But I'd be fascinated to see how people would react. I feel like they would actually react pretty well to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that with the WWE, you certainly have this audience that wants something very different from what the main roster is providing, and you're able to pretty much customize your product to your fan base. I think with mixed martial arts, it's kind of in a different realm, and I don't really sense that desire from a lot of fight fans to want to really differentiate. I mean, these UFC cards, you are appealing to the hardcore fan base, and then there's fights that will bring in the much larger scope of fans that maybe only watch a handful of shows each and every year. I don't know how much more you could put on the calendar at this point, other than taking kind of your lower-based fight cards and to me promoting them as anything other than UFC. I think you're doing more damage than good.
Okay, fair enough. Last night must have been very busy for you because you have become the face of UFC in Canada. Who would have thought John Pollock, Toronto's own, becomes the face of UFC Canada because you're hosting all the pre-fight, post-fight coverage, all that stuff on the Fight Network, which is a great story, and it's great for you guys that you actually have that deal. But you also have SummerSlam going on, and you've got live audio wrestling, all that stuff. How are you able to keep tabs on everything?
It was a very busy night.
Yeah.
I was not going to try and tackle both at the same time. I mean, last night we had our crew in Saskatoon doing UFC coverage, and then back here in Toronto, I was doing the studio work along with a man you're familiar with, Gabe Morency, who is another personality on our network. So we were back here in the studio, and Sunday night was all UFC for me. I was not going to try and be balancing both. So we were on the air at 6 p.m. doing our pre-fight show. The prelims aired on the Fight Network at 7, and then we were on immediately after the main event for about 2 hours. So my night finished at about 2 a.m., and then I came home to watch SummerSlam.
You did a 2-hour post-fight show?
Yes, we did.
Why?
It was we go on immediately after the main event, and then we're pretty much just staying there until the press conference begins. And then the press conference was not a super long press conference. And then we came back, and just because of all the content we had from Saskatoon, post-fight interviews, analysis from John Randy and Robin Black, it was all elements we had to get to. So it turned into a 2-hour show.
Wow, that's amazing.
It was a long night.
Yes. So I appreciate you joining us now. So what would you do with Max Holloway now? Like I said, great winning streak. He hasn't lost since that loss to Conor McGregor in Boston around 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago. But the fight ends in a wacky fashion. Thank God no serious injury suffered. I mean, in terms of, it sounds like a very serious injury. It's a micro tear of his esophagus, for God's sake. So that is serious in its own right. But thank God nothing worse happened in the cage Sunday night in Saskatoon to Charles Oliveira. But what do you do with Holloway? Do you do the rematch? Do you go with Frankie Edgar, who on Twitter today said he'd like to fight either Holloway or Jeremy Stevens? Do you go with Chad Mendes? What do you do if you're Sean Shelby?
I think that it's not a fight that I was very much looking forward to this fight going in. I think everyone was. In terms of the 12 fights, that was the gem on top of this card. I just don't see them putting both guys in a holding pattern for another 4 or 5 months. And who knows to what degree Charles Oliveira is going to be ready to just enter a fight camp immediately after this. I mean, it is something that hopefully he is 100% healthy from this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to hold back Max Holloway at this point. I mean, it is kind of an asterisk that you place with this 7th victory in a row, but I think that it makes a whole lot of sense to look in this Frankie Edgar direction. I like that fight a lot for a number of reasons. A, it's a very interesting fight. B, if you are to put it towards the end of the year, I think it serves the exact same purpose as Jacare and Yoel Romero on that 194 card, where you are either, at worst, building the next contender, or in the event of some kind of an injury, you do have 2 options here to fill in that slot at the last minute with 2 top featherweights training for relatively that same time period.
So you like that idea more than Edgar Mendez, which is a fight that I feel like we've been talking about for years now?
I think that Max Holloway, I mean, you can't really go wrong of those 3 featherweights.
Yeah.
I just feel that Chad Mendes, he's not somebody that I see challenging for the title with a win. I think that almost nullifies, whereas Frankie Edgar and Max Holloway, I think whoever wins that fight is instantly into that next contender role. So if I'm going of those 3, Mendes is kind of in that 3rd slot for me. I think that loss does place him a bit back.
Sounds like you like Mendes Stevens, Edgar Holloway, and do Edgar Holloway as the main event of the Tough finale the night before Aldo McGregor, all eyes on the featherweight division. You get your number one contender. That sounds like a pretty good idea, right?
I think that's a great idea where you're going to have all of that spotlight that weekend on the middleweight and featherweight divisions. And coming out of that weekend, hopefully, knock on wood, you will have your next title fight, at least in the public's mind, of the fight they want to see in both weight classes.
Do you like the idea of putting a show before that gigantic 194 card? Because, I see it as a way to promote the pay-per-view one last time. And, it's better than after the fact on Sunday, like we did, at 189 and last year at 175, because that always felt like you were sticking around at the party way too long. But even before, I mean, you're loading up a lot on the calendar. There's a lot to digest. Do you like that idea? Do you like when the UFC doubles up like this?
Yeah, I'm not a gigantic fan of the Sunday night immediately following, especially such a big card. Like, I was there much like you for 175 last year, and I mean, you talk about the party ending early. I mean, that quickly turned into a funeral Sunday night for that press conference after. I mean, just a very dire tone to that entire evening by the end of things involving Frankie Edgar. But, I kind of like the Friday night show. It's getting you set. It's very much like what the WWE did this past weekend. It wasn't trying to present the massive show on the Saturday and then come back with something smaller. It was kind of this sub-product on the Saturday night building up to the pay-per-view on Sunday. Granted, they're sticking around for a third night in Brooklyn tonight.
That is true. Monday Night Raw. I might make an appearance. Who knows? Let me ask you about Frankie Perez, because to be honest, I almost got a little emotional listening to what he had to say. I mean, here's a guy who had just won, knocked out a great fighter in Sam Stout. Both you and I think, we try to be as unbiased as possible, but the Canadian guys, especially Team Tompkins and the guys who kind of helped put Canada on the map in MMA, I'd say we have a bit of a soft spot for those guys, and it sucks to see him lose third time in a row via KO or TKO. But here you have a young guy like Frankie Perez. I remember seeing Frankie Perez in the gym at Foxwoods last year. Mark Henry was there telling me, look at this guy. This is going to be the future right here. And here he is, wins his first UFC fight in his second outing inside the octagon and just retires on the spot and says he doesn't want to put his family through this anymore, all that stuff. And I think unanimously on Twitter and all that, people were, pretty much in awe of this guy. Wow, good for you. You're able to walk away. And then they go, I don't know if you saw this, but they go to the studio with Michael Bisping, and he says, look, if you don't have the cojones, then you shouldn't be doing this. See you later. Don't let the door, hit you on the way out, which is fine. To me, it's like, okay, great. He said how he felt. He's a fighter, so he has a different perspective. He's not, applauding him. Maybe he's taking the company stance. Maybe he's not, but it just felt honest to me. And then people are ripping on Bisping for it. I mean, I don't understand it. Sometimes they say the coverage is too fluffy, and then when someone says something that they feel like is, maybe too honest or maybe a little dickish, they get mad at the guy. The guy can't win. No one can win in this scenario. Regardless, what do you think of Frankie doing that inside the cage?
I thought this was just one of the most bizarre post-fight interactions ever. I mean,
there were a bunch of them.
There were some strange ones, but this one, I mean, Frankie Perez catches him with that right hand, finishes him with strikes, looks impressive, and then afterwards, I mean, if you think a retirement is coming, obviously you were assuming it would have been Sam Stout, but instead, Frankie Perez just with that line that comes out of nowhere. This is my first UFC win, and now it's going to be my last. And afterwards, John Ramdeen from Fight Network, he spoke to Frankie Perez, and I mean, he's saying everything that he said. I had the best camp of my life.
Yeah.
I went out there. I performed. I mean, everything that would indicate, man, where's this guy going to be going next at the 155-pound weight class? There's something that clearly he's just not, I think, revealing, whether this is just something that went wrong on a personal side. I don't know what is going on. I'm suspicious that we've seen the last of Frankie Perez, and the fact that he got $50,000 as a bonus at the end of this, or maybe that is going to curb his decision-making.
Yeah, I texted him this morning just to see if he changed his mind after sleeping on it, and he said, no, man, I'm done, which is amazing. I mean, wow, good for him. He has a DJing career, and I think his family has a clothing line and all that stuff, so clearly he's got other things going on, but I mean, that's one of the more...
definitely a record scratch moment in that.
Wow, well done, well done. Very impressed once again with Valérie Letourneau, Quebec's own, who all of a sudden couldn't speak English inside the cage. Another bizarre... Poor John Anik.
You were needed in that cage, Ariel, after. You must have been just ripping your hair out.
John Anik, man, it's amazing. I love when he's doing the shows, only because I know it's almost a guarantee that we're going to get some wacky post-fight interviews, and he handles it very well. So she wins, and it's amazing. You look at her record, and this is someone who, she kind of she kind of flew under the radar when she came into the UFC because she didn't do well in the Ultimate Fighter. She lost in the fight to get into the house against Roxanne Modafferi. So, you don't really know what to expect. But now she wins her third in a row in the UFC, fourth in a row overall, and you start to really examine her record. Prior to this 4-fight winning streak, her last loss was to Claudia Gadelha, which is amazing. She's the number one contender. And then you look at her other 2 losses, Alexis Davis and Sarah Kaufman in 2007. So a very long time ago. And this got me thinking about something that some fans were bringing up online on Friday with the Holly Holm-Ronda Rousey fight coming up, and the co-main event we hope is going to be Joanna Jędrzejczyk against Gadelha. Do you think the UFC can get away in 2016, it'll be January 2nd, 2016, with a 5-fight all-women's pay-per-view card? You throw in a Le Tourneau, perhaps a Rose Namajunas, some other, name, Miesha Tate, obviously against maybe an Amanda Nunes. Can they get away with this, or do we who live in this bubble think a little too highly of women's MMA, in the sense that I think that MMA is still new to a lot of people, and then women's MMA is a whole other beast? Do you think that'll be too risky for the UFC?
Not if you're headlining it with Ronda Rousey. I think that with Ronda Rousey on top, it's an experiment I would go forward with if you've got that fight involving Ronda Rousey on top. It's something different, which I think with all the fight cards that the UFC is promoting every single year, different is good for once in a while on a pay-per-view, something novel, something that's going to get them different kind of attention as well. I think that Ronda Rousey opens your doors, and here it is, the UFC, which is largely to the outside presented as very much this alpha male promotion, and here's something completely different. I think it's an experiment worth doing, and I think that you're still going to do significantly well with the right fight on top involving Ronda Rousey.
What do you make of the UFC's decision to go with Holly Holm as opposed to Miesha Tate, who was promised a title shot in July in Chicago, or Amanda Nunes, who's coming off an amazing win over Sarah McMahon?
Here's my biggest problem is just this inconsistency. We've got these rankings, and I'm not someone that just, complains about the rankings for the sake of it. But if you're going to present your defense for certain title fights, such as Alexander Gustafsson jumping Ryan Bader, or Chad Mendes over Frankie Edgar, what was cited? So, well, they're ranked ahead of the other guy. That's why they're getting the title fight. So don't give me that line, and then we turn around and we're getting fights like Carlos Condit challenging Robbie Lawler, and Holly Holm just jumping all the way above Amanda Nunes and Miesha Tate. My bigger problem with everything was how it was handled with Miesha Tate.
Yeah.
Because I've heard no argument of why the UFC had to do things the way they did, other than it just sucked. Like, Miesha Tate to not even get a phone call. This is these fighters' lives, that they are scheduling the rest of this year and the next number of months geared around this fight that they were promised. Probably easily the most money Miesha Tate would make in her entire life up to this point for that third fight with Ronda Rousey. And to have to find out the way she did, I just think that was terrible.
It's a great point. I spoke to her manager, Josh Jones, on Friday morning, so around 10 a.m. Eastern time or so, and he was living. This is a really nice guy, calm, cool, collected guy. Works
he
for.
Should have been.
Yeah, and he said, I was absolutely shocked. And he told me, we're speaking right now. Miesha Tate is in, I believe she was in Vegas, either Vegas or Seattle. She has no idea. She's sleeping. I've called her. I've texted her. She has no idea. Both you and I know about this before her, which, I mean, I feel like Miesha Tate has a pretty great relationship with the UFC, and I could kind of understand them not wanting to, tip her off because of a big announcement, Good Morning America. That's a big deal. I get it. But I feel like Miesha Tate would have kept it quiet. I mean, she would have been upset, but they would have made it right. She wouldn't have gone on Twitter and spoiled their announcement. She would have been pissed off. I don't blame her. But to not tell her or her team seems like a crummy way to go about things. And, I think that look, I get the decision. That's why I hated the fact that they announced that she was the number one contender in Chicago, because I wanted to see where things would lie in the next few weeks. I get the decision. It's a sellable fight. Here you have the UFC is trying to market and position Ronda Rousey as this big star to the ESPNs of the world, to like the cosmopolitans of the world. And to say that she's fighting someone a third time who she has already defeated twice is a hard sell. And then when you say, okay, here she is fighting this fellow undefeated fighter who's a world champion boxer multiple times. She's been in the sport. That's an easier sell, I think, to the mainstream sports world and not sports world. To say you're going to, fight Amanda Nunes, who's won her last 2 in a row, that's a tough sell. And plus, she can't really speak English all that well. So I feel like they're going with what makes the most sense for the casual audience. I get the decision. But again, as you just said very well, you can't promise her a shot in July. You cannot tell her. I mean, that's just not the right way to go about things.
I would say that the audience that Ronda Rousey is bringing in today, I think very few are obsessed over the competitive nature of the opponent. And I think we're coming off of a fight where that was compounded, if that was your thinking going into it with Bethe Correia. I think Miesha Tate, the argument is, in terms of opponents she's beaten, there's no question she deserved this over Holly Holm. Second, I think that, I go back, and in 2006, we were both following this, and when they announced that second and even third fight involving Ken Shamrock and Tito Ortiz, it was the same dialogue that, man, this is such a stupid fight to make, and despite the competitive imbalance growing and growing from fight 1 to 3, the business was the complete opposite. And I think that there are new fans watching that didn't watch the first fight, maybe saw the second fight, but this third one, you at least have someone in Miesha Tate that a lot of people are familiar with, that will be going out there, will be doing the media rounds. I think it is a fight that you almost can't go wrong with an opponent for Ronda Rousey at this stage. It's just that big. So if I'm Miesha Tate, though, what is my ceiling now in the UFC? What do I have to do? The argument was, well, it's a third fight with Ronda Rousey. Is her beating Amanda Nunes going to change that fact? Is this something new we weren't aware of when we were continuing to book her? Like, what is the path for Miesha Tate in this women's division if a title fight is going to be withheld from her because of past performances?
Final quick question. UFC 194 super stacked, 195, it's got Ronda Rousey. Which does better on pay-per-view in your opinion?
Between UFC 194 and 195?
Yeah.
I've got to say, at this point, I am leaning towards 195 because every single fight this year that Ronda Rousey has been in, it has just blown away my expectations going in. So I kind of leave that fight to that final week. Who knows how big the fight is going to become? They're both great cards, but Ronda Rousey has just surprised me so much in terms of how big her pay-per-views have become that I have to lean that way because each show has been bigger than the last.
Great stuff, John. Appreciate the time, especially after a very busy night. Catch him on the Fight Network if you're in Canada. Their coverage is amazing. Also, one of his 4,000 podcasts. You can get them on iTunes, Live Audio Wrestling, Review, Away, all that good stuff, and more. Appreciate it as always, John. We'll talk to you soon.
Anytime, Ariel. Thanks.
All right. There's my fellow Canadian, John Pollock. We were just talking about UFC 194. Last week on this show, I said that card has the greatest co-main event in UFC history. The greatest. And you've had a week to argue against that point, and you brought nothing to the table. One half of that co-main event is Luke Rockhold. He joins us right now via the magic of Skype. There he is. Luke Rockhold himself. What'd you make of John Pollock over there, our first guest of the day, saying 195 is going to do better on pay-per-view than 194? Do you agree?
I tend to disagree. What can I say? I might be a little biased, but I believe in our card a little more.
Do you agree that this is the greatest co-main event in UFC history? Also, you're biased, but I think that's a very valid point.
I'm gonna have to go with that one too. Yeah, why not?
Are you disappointed that you're the co-main event?
No, I'm happy to be on this card in this situation. It's a great opportunity for me, and I'm just gonna do what I do.
Before we get into the actual fight, I have a very big question, a very important question to really kick things off here. And please be as honest as possible, okay?
Uh-huh.
Did you get Taylor Swift's phone number?
No comment.
What do you mean, no comment? What is that? You can't go on Instagram, take a picture with her, you're all chummy, and not, you just said you were going to be honest. Why can't you tell us? What's the big deal? If you got the number, you're the coolest guy in the world. If you didn't, well, then you're just like everyone else. No problem.
Exactly. So I'm just going to leave it as is.
How did Luke Rockhold get to meet arguably the most famous pop star in the world right now? How did this happen?
No comment.
What? You can't even tell us that? You can't even tell us how you got the picture? Daniel Cormier's on his Twitter, flaunting that he's hanging out with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Very cool. But you one-up him with Taylor Swift. You got to tell us the backstory here.
I just got some connections, and it was one of those why nots going to Taylor Swift. I was a little scared. Didn't want to feel like I didn't know the exact demographic I'd be entering into, and but I had the opportunity to meet Taylor and say hi and plant the seed, and so baby steps, but we might be on the right track. You never know.
Wow. So we had
Cormier.
Yes?
Mind you, Cormier was supposed to go the next night. There was back-to-back shows.
Okay.
And he actually got scared and bailed out. His little daughter wanted to go, and he pulled the trigger. He pulled the plug.
Scared of what?
I think a real man can go to a Taylor Swift concert and try to enjoy himself. He just got a little scared. What can I say?
I have no problem with that at all. Was she a nice lady? Did she know who you were?
She was nice.
Connor had Sinead O'Connor sing him out. Could you imagine Taylor Swift Shake It Off as you're walking to your title fight?
I thought about it. I envisioned it.
Tom Petty versus Taylor Swift.
We might have talked about it.
Oh my Lord, this would be amazing. 194 would be gigantic if you got Taylor Swift to sing. Weidman gets Tom Petty, you get Taylor Swift, and you can't beat that.
It'd be pretty hard to beat.
Okay.
Is Sinead O'Connor coming back? That's the question. Is she going to come back in the sweatpants and do the whole deal?
I don't think you can go back to that well. I think it's one and done. You want to see it again?
Yeah. I mean, it worked for him last time. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't think.
Where else is he going to go? How's he? I mean, you can't really go back, from there.
Yeah.
Might as well stay with.
Maybe they do something different, a different kind of entrance, but I don't think you bring out the live music again. But that's just me. Okay, so last week on the show we had Chris Weidman, right? He opened the show and he had some very interesting comments about you. I just want to quickly play you a snippet of what he had to say about you and get your response, okay?
Uh-huh.
Here's Chris Weidman last week on the show.
I'm excited to go out there and just completely run through Luke. I just really cannot imagine myself losing to him. And I know he'll kind of talk the same way, but I think he's just kind of faking it. I don't think he really even believes he can beat me.
Really? Why?
But he knows what to say. I just think he knows. These guys know in the way. I think they're starting to get it. And he's one of the guys who knows. I think he's a little insecure with himself, and I feel like that's why he has to pump his chest up all the time and go a little overboard. But I think he's just insecure, and I think he knows what's coming. I think he'd much rather be fighting anybody else besides me.
Luke, this is heavy-duty stuff. Much rather be fighting someone else, insecure, What'd you make of his comments?
I really don't know what is going through his head. I believe is his psychology major, right? So maybe he's just, messing with himself. I don't know. He's built these things up in his head. I don't know what he's reading into, but he's about to wake up to a different story come 12-12.
I like that, 12-12. But, you could say a lot about an opponent leading up to a fight. I mean, he's going into a special place here. He's kind of trying to get into your mind, saying that you're insecure. Why do you think he's bringing these things up, and where is this coming from? I honestly, his delivery and his words surprised me greatly last week.
Yeah, his delivery, it sounds like he's sleeping, like he's in bed trying to talk to you. But I don't see where he's seeing weakness in my game and what I've brought to the table. I've been through some tough battles in my career, and he's seen a lot of those in the past in the Strikeforce days, and I think I've proven myself even more so now. So I mean, people haven't seen the wars in the UFC that I've had in Strikeforce and what I'm capable of, and where I can dig deep. And I just don't know where he thinks he's going to break me. I think he's underestimating every part of my game, and he's gonna be surprised when he tries to wrestle, and I'm shutting him down everywhere. And I believe this will ultimately probably end on the feet. And I don't see what he brings to the table. He's fought a bunch of guys that are scared of him. He's fought a one-legged spider, a fireless dragon, and an old lion with his balls cut off. I mean, this is he's facing a different animal at this point in time, and I'm going to bring it to him on all levels, and I'm going to shut him down.
Sometimes when someone goes in a direction like that, I'm not saying this is the case right here, but I want to get your opinion on this. when they take these kind of shots, when they dig deep like this, it's almost like they're talking about themselves, but they're trying to deflect how they're feeling about themselves onto someone else. Do you feel like that's the case here?
I mean, it could be. It could be one of the, how he's looking at it. And I think he knows he's in for a fight. He's known this was going to be a fight a long time ago, and it's finally here. And he's just trying to build himself up any way possible. He keeps comparing our Vitor Belfort fights. That's a bad way to look at things. We fought different guys.
Yeah. On
that night, I got caught by a crazy kick, and he got caught by an old saggy Vitor, and it still almost got him. I just don't. If you want to compare a fight, you can compare our Machida fights. We fought a pretty similar Machida. I think he came back, almost got Weidman, had a nice showing against CB Dalloway, and then came back in with a lot of confidence and a lot of hype behind him, and I completely shut him down. Weidman could barely hold him down at times, and you saw what I was able to do to him. I'm just getting warmed up in this game, and I'm looking forward to this fight with Weidman. I really think he's going to bring the best out of me. He's a tough guy. He's going to be able to take some shots, and I'm going to be able to get loose and start letting my stand-up go. And he's going to be shocked when he can't take me down. Or I guarantee he's going to try to take me down. He might get me down for a minute. I'm going to bounce back up. I'm going to start shutting down all his takedowns, and I'm going to start doing my thing on the feet and start teeing off like Tiger Woods.
Has a line been drawn in the sand here? Because I've seen you guys in the same room. I've seen you guys do media together. You always seem like you were pretty good friends. But something, like even now, you're not smiling. You seem kind of annoyed to be talking about this guy. Something seems to have changed in the last few weeks.
It's all fine and dandy until you start fighting for the belt.
Yeah.
And you start, someone's got to take the other guy's dreams. And everything he's worked for his whole life. It's going to get personal. It's going to get more personal as it gets long. This is it's time. It's time for war.
How have you been able to stay focused and not overtrained for this fight? You last fought in April. I know you were ready to fight around September or so. Didn't work out for him. His wife is having a baby, and the timing just didn't work out. So here you are fighting December. I think in the end, it will be beneficial for both of you because you're on this gigantic card at the end of the year. But, I mean, I see you. I follow you on Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff. You seem like you're in pretty good shape, and you seem like you're in the gym all the time. So how do you not overtrain and get too pumped up for a fight that, as we speak right now, is a little less than 4 months away? That's a long time.
It is a long time. You gotta space it out. I've been training more so than I usually do, like this far out, and harder than I usually do. But as long as I fit in the right, Taylor Swift concerts and the Burt Bentley last weekend, so I manage myself and I free myself up on the weekends and do some things. So I have a little Paris trip coming up and a couple things, and we're gonna do some promos. There's gonna be a lot of promotional work. So I'll stay busy. I'll stay on the grind. But I got a good outlook on my training and my lifestyle at this point. I've been in the game for a long time.
What's going on in Paris?
We have a thing for Adidas we're doing out there. I'm gonna go to the factory out there, and I'm gonna do a seminar and enjoy myself a little bit.
You big over there?
I don't know. We're about to find out.
Is TS going too?
TS?
Yeah. Maybe you'd answer if I refer to her as TS. That'd be something, huh? Come to Paris with me. She'll take you on
almost
her.
There, yeah.
You're not quite there at your relationship just yet.
Yeah, we're taking the 1989 World Tour all the way up.
You were recently on Long Island, right? What were people saying to you? Did people come up to you and say, "Beat our guy"? Did they boo you? Did they spit at you when you were there? Because you were on his turf, even tweeting at him, saying that there you are hanging with the people.
You'd be surprised how many people came up to me in Long Island and said, "Please beat Chris Weidman.
Get out of here."
Please beat Chris.
Really?
I swear to God. We had a good showing, and I got a lot of support out there. It felt good, and I was hanging with the people. We had a good time, and let's just say I got a lot of Long Island people coming up to support me on this.
Really? What are they saying?
Coming all the way. I just said what I was saying.
But why?
A lot of people just don't like Chris. I don't know. I swear. Hey, I tell no lies.
Well, okay, speaking of lies, he claims that Daniel Cormier writes your tweets.
There's not been one tweet written by Daniel Cormier in the history of my Twitter.
He doesn't access your Twitter and write your stuff.
He's underestimating my Twitter game. He's underestimating my stand-up game, my wrestling game, and my jiu-jitsu game. So, these whatever. He can keep telling himself these things, but he's like I said, he's in for a rude awakening.
When you see what happened to Cain Velasquez, and it's part of the game. Your buddy Cormier recently became champion. He has a fight coming up, but then the flip side is what happened to Cain. You're right there. I mean, you are at the mountaintop, my friend. You are one win away from becoming a champion. How do you prepare for this? How do you mentally get ready for this, as opposed to the Luke Rockhold who was coming in to the UFC against Vitor Belfort? Like, is this Luke Rockhold perhaps a little more humble and saying like, oh, bad things can happen, as opposed to that one who thought maybe he was on top of the world, he was the Strikeforce champion? Because you have both sides of the coin right in front of you.
Yeah, and I know how I'm going to fight these days, and if it's not broke, don't fix it. Vitor kind of took a lot of the weight off my shoulders with that fight. It was I carried a lot into that fight, and that just helped me relax and focus on nothing. We're just relaxing, really. I think that's the key to my success as of late is ultimate relaxation and not caring, not holding on to winning or losing, and just going out there and believing in myself and believing in my preparation and my camp and everything I bring to the table. I know I'm a better fighter than all these guys. Anything can happen, of course, in the game, and it is what it is, but I'm better than any middleweight in the world right now. I guarantee you that, and I'm going to win 99% of the time. Why
not 100% of the time?
Because it's the game it is, but trust me, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to dominate this fight. I'm going to show that I am the best fighter in the world.
Are you going to bounce around leading up to this? I saw you training with Henry Hooft in Florida. I've seen you other places as well. What's going on there? Are you just trying to figure out what's best for you, or do you have relationships with these guys? What's happening?
Yeah. I've always respected Henry Hooft and what he brings to the table, and we've always kind of got along and wanted to work with each other. He wanted to work with me, and I wanted to work with him. And I so happened to be out in Florida, and Vitor so happened to be out of the States, and I jumped in and jumped on the stomping grounds and took over. So I try to get knowledge wherever I can. If I see something I like, I want to work with them, and I'm not. I'm one of those guys that I'm trying to learn from everywhere and everybody. You got to have that mindset. I think Weidman's is sheltered in his own little world with Ray Longo, and he's only going to get so far. It's for myself. I work with everybody I can that I see something in, and I can be more innovative like that and learn little tricks and things that I can add to my arsenal that Weidman will not see.
Do you see improvement in Weidman's game? Like when you watch the Weidman who, let's say fought Munoz, then Anderson twice, Machida, and most recently Vitor, do you think he's getting better?
I think he's getting a little better, maybe a little more relaxed. I still see he still looks clunky and slow and weird. These kicks he's throwing, I don't know what he's thinking. And if he tries to pull that stuff off of me, I'm gonna make him pay for every dumb kick he throws. I mean, really, he might be a worse kicker than Bisping. I'm not even lying right now. He's pretty bad in that department. So,
wow.
I'm looking forward to getting in there and mixing it up. I mean, I think he's confident. I think he gets by on his grit and his toughness, that he comes forward and these guys are kind of scared of getting taken down, and holds him back, and he can get off with his striking. I'm gonna meet him in the middle. I'm not gonna worry about the takedown. I will defend the takedowns, and I'm gonna make him pay. I'm gonna cut angles. I'm gonna be slicker. I'm gonna be faster. I got more weapons. I'm gonna hurt this dude in every way. And even if it gets the ground, I guarantee I'll be superior in every area of this fight.
You watching a lot of tape on him? Are you that kind of guy?
I've watched a lot of tape on him for a long, long time, and I watch more. I definitely study and try to build my instincts, and so it just comes out naturally. I've watched every fight a lot. So,
have you allowed yourself to dream about December 12th, 12/12? Do you have a specific outcome way to an outcome that keeps popping up that you see this actual fight going down?
You always envision certain areas of the fight where you can finish it, and it usually plays out that way for me almost every time. Like I've said it before. I really think Weidman's going to come forward. He's going to try to wrestle. He's going to try to pressure me. I'm going to stop him. I'm going to hit him with everything I got, and he's going to, he'll probably try to take me down. I guarantee you, I'm gonna threaten him. I'm gonna probably put some kind of submission or get back up, and he's gonna panic. We're gonna get back to our feet, and then I'm gonna start finding my groove on the feet and cutting them off. And he comes forward very strong at the beginning, but when you hit him with something, he starts backing up and playing that middle ground game. That's a game where he's gonna lose. And I'm gonna find him. I'm gonna catch him with something clean. It's gonna be a left kick.
Ooh.
Or a left hand. I'm gonna say left kick or left hand. One of the other is gonna slow him down.
What do you think of my Magic Johnson, Larry Bird comparison? East versus West, two young studs. You guys like each other, but there's no person in the world that you would rather beat more. You can't lose to this guy. It feels like that's what's developing here. Like two guys in their prime, peaking at the right time from different coasts, going toe to toe in one of the greatest, contests. I can't say enough good things about this fight. Do you feel where I'm coming from with this?
It's gonna be a good fight. I'm excited for it. He's definitely Larry Bird, a little clunkier version, but strong-minded, confident guy. I'm gonna.
You're a little
throw the magic
pizzazz. You're a little Showtime, right?
I'm gonna bring the magic to the table, and we're gonna take over.
Can you just do me one favor? Can you not surf or do any of your stupid things? When you're cracking your head open. Can you just keep it on the DL for the next 4 months, please? I don't want to see anything happen to this damn fight.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. I'm healthy. I'm very conscious of what I'm doing and my body, and I'm taking care of it.
All right, man.
Trust me, I'm not running any risks on this fight. This is something I've worked for my whole life, and I'm not gonna let it slip through my fingers.
All right, great to hear. Good to have you on the show again. Yes, please tell me.
I will not be the guy that gets injured on this fight. I guarantee you that.
Okay, we'll hold you to that. Say hello to Taylor for us. Do you want to sing us out? Any specific tune? Anyone that you like that really stuck with you that night at the concert? Anything at all?
No, I'm good.
You're good? Okay, fair enough. Can't wait. Yeah. Honestly, I cannot wait for this fight. I don't know if I'm more excited for any other fight the rest of the year. Luke Rockhold, Chris Weidman, UFC 194, December 12th in Las Vegas. It's going to be great. Luke, appreciate the time. Best of luck to you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
There he is, the one and only Luke Rockhold, a staple over at the American Kickboxing Academy. Tell me, there are certain fights that are just as good. Conor Aldo is just as good. It is an amazing fight. Cruz Dillashaw is just as good. There's no doubt about it. That is an amazing fight whenever they announce it. There are other fights that are great. Romero-Jacare, that was announced Monday afternoon after our show last week. Cerrone Dos Anjos is a tremendous fight. Condit Lawler is a great fight. But there's no fight that I'm looking forward to more than Rockhold Weidman. God, I can't wait for that fight. Rockhold Weidman, December 12th. It's going to be great. All right. In a minute, let me just alert the masses here. Why I keep doing this, I don't know, but I do it. We're going to be joined by the Executive Vice President of World Series of Fighting, Mr. Ali Abdel-Aziz. Very busy man. In my opinion, one of the most powerful men in mixed martial arts. That's right, I said it. One of the most powerful men in the game today. And he has alerted me that he has some interesting news to break on the program. He'll be doing that in a matter of moments. He's joining us from Las Vegas. World Series of Fighting has a show coming up in September. They're doing Justin Gaethje, the lightweight champion, rematch. Also, I think Nick Newell's on the card. Yeah, that's right. Nick Newell's on the card. And David Branch going for the light heavyweight title, right? Could be a dual champion. That's coming up. But we're not necessarily talking about that on today's show. We're talking about other news that Mr. Abdel-Aziz wants to break on his favorite program, the MMA Hour. He joins us right now via the magic of Skype. Ali, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. How are you, Ariel?
Who else is joining us? I see an arm over there to your right.
That's the mystery guy.
Okay, the mystery. Well, I see what's going on over there? A fight card in back of you? What's happening over there?
Yeah. This one has been announced already.
Okay, that's no problem. Okay, I'm not excited about that. Okay, you have told me, Ali, you called me up, very, very important, and you're a very hard guy to reach. I try to call you, I try to text you, you don't respond unless you want to talk. And you reached out to me late last week and said, Ariel, my brother, as you like to say, I have some news that I want to break, and I have some very, very interesting news that I want to break on your program. So let's get it out of the way. The floor is yours, my friend. What do you want to tell the world?
First of all, we talk a lot, and
Come on.
1 second here. Let me fix something.
You look great. Okay.
Thank you, brother. As I said, World Series of Fighting is doing things different. We want to do things different. Everybody put on shows, and we just want to do something different. And me and my man Ray Seffel come with this idea. As you know, Ray Seffel, all he did in K1 tournament, that's, the K1 tournaments and Pride tournaments, and this is something old school people love. And it was kind of sat down and we talked about it, and we'll come up with this 8-man tournament. It's going to be a lightweight 8-man tournament. It's going to be crown a tournament champion at the end of the night, and the tournament champion will get to fight the winner of Palomino and Gaethje in the lightweight match.
So it's a one-night tournament.
It's a one-night tournament, yes. 8 guys.
So the winner is going to have to fight 3 times that night, right?
The winner will fight 3 times, correct. The winner will fight correct 3 times, and it's going to crown a tournament champion.
Okay.
It's kind of going back to the gladiator days, One gladiator fight, and he keep going and keep going and keep going. And after that, he achieve his ultimate goal, just win this tournament. And I think fans should be excited about it because, there's so much MMA out there. People getting kind of tired a little bit. It's just so many shows. It's true. It's good for the fan, hardcore fan. But when you have an 8-man tournament, you want to sit in front of TV and see which gladiator is going to win the tournament and which one is going to wrap his knee and go back to the second round. After that, he's going to ice his eyes from swelling and go back and fight this other gladiator and win tournament and you be a champion. And we have some really good guys going to be in this tournament.
Tell us. Do you have the names?
Islam Mamadov. He already fought for World Series of Fighting. He's 2-0. Joao Zarafino. Rich Petishnock. Macaco. We got to bring some old school to it.
Yes, of course.
Listen, the guy he's awesome. He still compete. Brian Cobb. Mike Ricci. And probably the winner between Ralu Barley and Brian Foster. He'll be in the tournament too. As you know, they fight in WSOF 23 in Arizona. And I'm going to have some kind of super fights on there for fun, Jason High is going to fight Carlos Fedor. Fedor. Mm-hmm. And that's it, man. We're going to have other couple good matches on there, and we're going to have the way this tournament is going to work. We're going to have like the undercard is going to be a reverse bout. The reverse bout is going to be going on the undercard, and if anybody got hurt in the tournament, in the middle of the tournament, they can go ahead and replace if any guy got injured or any guy got caught or anything like that.
Okay. You mean reserve bouts?
Reserve bouts, yeah.
Reserve bouts. I know English isn't your mother tongue.
Yeah, it's not my first language.
No, but you're doing great. I appreciate it. When is this tournament?
It's going to be November 20th.
Okay.
It's going to be live on NBC Sport, and it's going to be in Seattle.
Oh, wow.
Seattle, Washington, yes.
And the Washington Commission, are they okay with one-night tournaments? Because I know some commissions are a little lukewarm towards them.
We talked to the commission. They're okay with it. We're just going to find some details, probably have a phone call with them today or tomorrow. But, one guy's going to fight 3 nights. One guy's going to fight 3 times in one night. And we just want to do something different. World Series of Fighting for the probably for the last 3 months, we've been kicking ass, put on this great fight card and, bringing some big names back. And we built in our talent. And one thing we do very, very well, build talent. We don't use, a lot of, veterans, and we use some veterans, we give them homes, but we like to build our own talents, and like, as you see, Marlon Moraes, Justin Gaethje, Lance Palmer, this is guy all made in World Series of Fighting.
It's interesting that you say that because when you started, you had Andrei Arlovsky and Rumble Johnson, and you were throwing out some of those big names. And then I think you went away from that a little bit, and then you started to, develop more of your own talent. But last week, I mean, you had a pretty busy week. You had Mike Ricci signing, you had Jason High signing. I mean, you had Colton Smith signing. I see his name up there as well. So are you now going back to the original plan, or where do you stand? Because it definitely seemed like at first you were signing very big name veterans, then you stopped, and like I said, last week was a pretty busy week for you.
Yeah, but as you know, Ariel, when we sign guys, I don't sign 50, 60 years old guy going to fight for us. I sign guys when Anthony Johnson, Andrei Arlovski left. This guy they was number one contender in the UFC. I don't sign guys just just their career is very much done.
Yeah,
I sign guys can be relevant. I think Mike Ricci is still relevant. I think Colton Smith, he moved up to 170. I think 155 was the wrong weight division. And he brings something different. He brings the military behind him. He's a great guy, and he called me and he asked for a home. You know what? And he's a friend, and if and he's a good fighter. He won the Ultimate Fighter. He's still young, And if he asked me for a home, I give him a home. Jason Hayes, hey, that guy, he got cut, but I don't think he should have got cut because a lot of drama was going behind him, And I asked a lot of media even before I signed him, what do you think about me, Jason High? And everybody said he deserved a shot.
Yeah.
Carlos Fridor, he went to ONE FC and he got 2 wins. And, he's still a young guy. He's still a guy I can develop. I got guys like Justin Gaethje. He's running through everybody. I need some contender for him. I can't just be protecting Justin Gaethje and just give him, guys nobody know who they are. I got to give him, if you want to make his name so big, I got to bring the Jason High. I got to bring the Mike Ricci. I got to bring these guys because these guys, they're veteran. And if Justin Gaethje is for real, and I know he is for real, he should go, beat these guys and retain his belt, or they're going to beat him. I just got to give our champion challenge.
So are you going to do this tournament thing, which I think is, in this day and age, as you said, there's a lot of MMA. It's tough to differentiate yourself with so much, UFC going on, so much Bellator, and then you have you guys on NBCSN. The one-night tournament, which Bellator is doing on September 19th, but it's only with 4 men. You're doing 8 men, so it's one more fight. That's a big deal. Is that something that you're going to keep doing in other weight classes, or is it just a lightweight thing right now?
We got to do probably maybe once, 2 times a year. And listen, if anybody understands 8-man tournament or 16-man tournament, this is Ray Seffel. He fought in so many tournaments. With all my respect to any other promoter, none of this promoter out there understand 8 or 16-man tournament because they don't understand the feeling of it. They probably did it and they was okay with it. But when I have the guy next to me, Ray Seffel, he competed in it. And I can't come up with the idea, but listen, I didn't come up with the idea. It doesn't exist. He did it, and he helped me so much with it. And he really put a lot of input into this. And when I have a guy like that, I'm next to me, he competed in the tournament. I competed in judo. I understand the tournament format very well. This is a road tournament. This is a road tournament. This is when you win this tournament, the whole entire world is gonna be like, wow, this guy did it. Because he's gonna fight 3 big names in the tournament, and people respect that.
Do you have the matchups? Do you know who's gonna fight who in the first round?
It's gonna be seeding. It's gonna be seeding. It's gonna be seeding. Number 1 is gonna fight number 8. Yeah. Number 2 is gonna fight number 7. It's gonna be seeding. And listen, the winner is going to make some really good money. It's going to be worth it.
But do you know the seedings right now?
I know some of the seeding. Yes, I do.
Can you tell us?
Islam Makhmadov probably seeded number 1. Joao Zarafino seeded number 2. Number 3, I'm not sure about it yet, but I can tell you Rich Pachishnok 7, Makak was 8, Brian Cobb is 4. Probably the winner of Brian Cobb and LaRue Barley is going to be 5.
Okay, what about Ricci? Is he 3 then?
I don't know.
Or 6?
He's going to probably be 6.
Okay.
That's where Ricci. So I'm kind of sharing this with you. But,
yes, I appreciate it.
It's not finalized yet, but I'm kind of sharing it with you because you know what? You've always been good to me.
Much respect. By the way, quick side notes, since we're speaking about champions, where do you stand with Paul Harris?
Listen, Paul Harris did it to himself. He did it to himself and he's keep doing it to himself. For him, I don't think he should think about fighting anymore. He should think about his well-being. He should think about his mental state. The guy needs some help. I don't know what kind of help he needs, but he needs some serious help. I put my neck out there and I got smashed because I'm the one kind of signed him, and you know, he did not make me proud. And it's just you know, his management, his team, they gotta get together and they're gonna be like, listen, how are we gonna fix this kid's life? Not man, he's not a kid. You know, his life.
Yeah.
I'm not even worried about him ever fight a World Series fight again. He might never fight again. You know, I want to see this human being do well in life because he's not. He needs to fix something. I don't know what it is. He's a great guy. I really like him a lot, but he got to fix something in his life. Not in his personal life. He's just something wrong there. We all know what, but I'm not a doctor. It's not my job to kind of figure out what's wrong with the guy. My job is I'm a promoter of put on fights. You know, but if I was in his team and I manage him or care about him, I would take a completely different route with him.
So are you done with him? Are you cutting him?
I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not cutting him. Listen, you know, Pajares, he's one of the best welterweights in the world. He just finished fucking Jake Shield. If he didn't put, you know, and Jake Shields was one of the best. But I'm not gonna cut him because if he go there and get some help and come back, said, listen, I'm healthy, and it's gonna be also gonna put him through a lot of tests and probably gonna send somebody to watch him train, and it's gonna be a whole bunch of stuff. But I'm not gonna cut him because I think, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do with you, Ariel, because I right now I don't think Pajares deserves to go inside the cage. It's nothing personal, but I can't have a guy going there to try to hurt people. This is a martial art. And we are martial artists. You know, this is, me and Ray, we are martial artists. This is what we do every day. But we just, it's unacceptable what he did.
His manager, Alex Davis, was on my show and seemed very upset by the way the whole thing was handled, saying that, you came to the media first without telling him. It was illegal, all that stuff. Have you cleared the air, at least with him?
This is whatever Alex Davis said is bullshit. Because, we talked to them. I talked to Minotauro. I don't care about Alex Davis. I talked to Minotauro, his coach, and this is the reason why I signed him. I didn't sign him because of Alex Davis. And Alex Davis should be like, be like, I understand. Let's get some help for this kid and move on. He can't be fucking going complaining. He should be issue apology to Jake Shield and his team. He should be like, I'm sorry. I did not do my job and help Pajares. It's not Alex Davis' fault. It's not. He's not his father. I don't know who's in charge of his life, but I have nothing against Alex. But the whole thing is, Alex should not be unhappy because you know what? When nobody want to give Pajares a home, I did, and I put my neck on the line for him. But Alex, he got to do what he got to do. But we did what we have to do, and everybody agreed with us what we did. And the whole thing is right now is the commission who's going to make the decision. What's going to happen? I can say whatever I want about Pajares. The commission is going to come up with a verdict, and we're gonna go with it.
By the way, what's going on with your guy Frankie Edgar? Going on Twitter today saying he wants Holloway Stevens. He's very vocal. What's happening? What's he going to get?
Frank is my little brother. Frank is going crazy, man. Frank is going wild. But I don't know. I think he just want to fight.
He's not feeling the love.
He will get some love. He'll get some love, but I'm thinking he's going to get some tough love. But he'll be all right.
I saw a picture last week of you dining with the big bosses, Lorenzo Fertitta and Dana White at the UFC, Fabricio Verdum also there. What did you guys talk about at this dinner?
We talked about a lot of stuff, man.
Yeah?
We talked about a lot of stuff. These guys, Dana, Lorenzo, and I respect these guys. They paved the way for everybody to make money and have businesses. And it's always to sit down with these guys and, talk about business and see what's the future of MMA is going to hold.
Well, very nice answer. What did they say about Verdum and his future? I mean, he was there. I presume you talked about Verdum.
Call Verdum. You have his number. He will answer.
Okay. So you're telling me if I call him up later on today, he'll tell me what you guys spoke about?
He will answer. But, I want to, this call is about World Series of Fighting.
Okay. Let me ask you about this. And I know you get a little uncomfortable when I talk about the other guy.
No,
that's fine.
You can talk about whatever.
No problem.
I'm not uncomfortable.
A guy, you said you stuck your neck out. You signed Melvin Gillard when he left the UFC. Now he's fighting in Bellator. He's main eventing their show on Friday. Are you disappointed with the way things ended up with you, because he pretty much asked for a release, right, from World Series of Fighting. One of the few guys that actually, it seemed like it ended poorly between you and the fighter.
I don't think it ended poorly. I just think I think Melvin is he's out of his mind. The guy is, I don't really care about Melvin. Melvin is he's a UFC reject. He's a WSF reject. Now he's headlining Bellator main event. Like, the guy, he was talking so much shit. Like, when he left to the UFC, he was talking shit about the UFC. When he left World Series of Fighting, he was talking shit about World Series of Fighting. When he's gonna get cut from Bellator, he's gonna talk about Bellator, because Melvin. Listen, Melvin is skill set. It's people evolve. People know what Melvin is. And honestly, I'm so upset with Ms. Melvin, because Melvin is after he asked for the release, and Malky asked me, and we'll give him the release, and he sent me a text message and say thank you, I really appreciate it. But the whole thing is, he's going on internet and talking about WSF shit and UFC is shit. He is shit. Like, Melvin sucks. Like, Melvin, is like, I honestly, I think he's an explosive athletic guy. He's getting older. It's not working with him. Like, listen, Melvin, we have some sparring session in the gym and Greg Jackson, and I beat Melvin every time. He's a world champion. Melvin is never going to be a world champion. Melvin is going to be a world champion of one thing. He tap. That's what Melvin does.
Jeez.
That's why he tapped. He's a world champion of tapping, because I did not appreciate when he left the World Series of Fighting, and we did not really have to release him, and he was talking garbage, and I don't appreciate that, I did it like a man, but what Melvin, all he got to do is just match him up as a wrestler. He's going to take him down and finish him. That's how I finished him in the gym, and Greg Jackson was a witness of that.
All right.
But I don't appreciate people come to you and ask for something when you grant it to them, and after that, it seems like fucking everybody's like leaving a promotion now, and talking shit about the other promotion. I have big problem with Josh Berkman. I called Dana myself to get him a contract, and me and Josh is cool. And he was a man when he left to the World Series of Fighting, and we had problem. He was disrespectful because I wished him what he wanted. I didn't really have to believe. I didn't have to believe Melvin. I didn't have to release him. Melvin, if he was still the World Series of Fighting, probably fight on the undercard somehow. Now he's lying in the main event. But you know what? It's good for him. But I'm not worried about him. Even his coaches, his own coaches, they was asking me, why are you not cutting this guy? He doesn't deserve to be a World Series of Fighting. But it's just he got burned a lot of bridges. But listen, we have a lot of great things going on in World Series of Fighting. The last thing I want to worry about is Melvin. We have a new CEO.
Yes.
He's making things here. We in the light, man. We in the light. We really are doing book things. We have fight card booked to December, to the end of the year.
Yeah.
We have the November. We have Phoenix, Justin Gaethje Palomino. It's September 18.
Yep.
September 18. And Justin Gaethje fighting Palomino, David Branch fighting Toddy Holder, Phoenix Jones, the return of Phoenix Jones, and Brian Foster fighting on the main card. And we have also October 17 in your backyard, Connecticut. We have John Fitch Okami. Do you like this fight, Arya?
I like it, yes.
We got Balgoy, Derek Mayman. We got Vinny Magalesh, grudge match with Matt Hamill.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, my job is so much easier now here because we have a new CEO. He's a very smart guy. He understands media. He deals with NBC on a daily basis. And things are going really well here. We have our date for next year. We're signing fighters. We're the only promotion team out there signing talents. We're signing good talent who can build up, become champions. Our relationship with NBC is getting better and better every day. They're great guys, and I really mean it when I say that. And just we have a great sponsor. We did Alienware, Sun Nutrition, and we have probably in the next couple of weeks something is gonna blow everybody's mind.
Oh.
We don't want to deal with somebody. It's gonna blow everybody's mind. You're gonna be watching World Series of Fighting everywhere.
Okay. Well, I look forward to that. Let us know if you want to break that news on this show. For now, we have to say goodbye. You broke some very big news at the top of the interview. November 20th, you're doing a one-night, 8-man lightweight tournament. The winner of the tournament gets a title shot against the winner of Justin Gaethje versus Luis Palomino 2, one of the very best fights of 2015 thus far. I look forward to that. It's in Seattle, Washington. Good luck in September in Phoenix. We'll talk to you soon, Ali. Great stuff as always.
Thank you, Ariel. Thank you for having me on.
All right, there he is, the Executive Vice President of World Series of Fighting, Mr. Ali Abdel-Aziz, bringing it strong to the hole. Holy moly. All right, let's move along. UFC 193, speaking of big events, I mean, this could go down as the biggest event of all time. Biggest event of all time, at least for the UFC. And, I mean, that is the gold standard right now. 70,000 fans they are hoping for at Etihad Stadium in Melbourne, Australia. The main event is Robbie Lawler defending his welterweight title against our guest at this time, Carlos Condit. Carlos, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for the time today. Wow, what an opportunity this is. Did you have any idea? Because it seemed like the fight was announced, or at least reported on, before the 70,000 seat stadium and all that stuff came out last week. Did you know when you accepted this fight that it was going to be taking place in a stadium that big?
Yeah, Dana, when Dana called and confirmed that they were going to give me the title shot, he told me that's what they were working on, and kind of the delay between when the rumors started and when the fight was officially announced by UFC was, the delay was caused by them trying to book that event center.
And what was your reaction? I mean, this is a big deal. 70,000. I mean, They've had 55,000 once. They had almost 30,000 in Sweden, and then nothing close. What was your reaction to that?
It's exciting. It goes without saying. It's a pretty exciting event, and I feel like this is a culmination of my entire career. With in this big fight, big stadium, a massive event. So it's definitely exciting.
I know you're not one for, a lot of talking, media, and all that stuff. Does it make you a little anxious? Like, wow, I'm actually going to have to go out and sell this thing? Because 70,000, it's not like you're going to Vegas where it's 15,000 fans. The tickets are expensive and all that. You still have to do some selling, but this is on a whole other level. Are you kind of dreading that?
No, I'm not dreading it. It's part of it. Robbie and myself, I don't think either of us are big talkers. Hopefully we can, draw enough of a crowd, build enough excitement just for the fact that we are exciting, top level, extremely violent strikers, and we are going to get in there and we're going to put on a fantastic show.
After your win over Thiago Alves, and what a performance it was, what a way to come back after the layoff, did you think that you had a chance to get a title shot after one win?
I thought that I had a chance, definitely. I thought it was a little bit of a long shot, but here we are.
So were you surprised when you got it? Like, did you think in the back of your mind, it would be great, but I probably have to go out there and fight at least once? And what a surprise this is.
Well, we started pushing for a title shot that night.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's what you ask for. Aim high, shoot high, and and maybe you'll get those things that you're wishing for, and that's kind of how it worked out this time.
So as you can imagine, this news ruffled some feathers, namely Johnny Hendricks' feathers. He really wanted this title shot. Woodley to a degree, and of course, the Hendricks fight was a while ago. It was around over 2 years ago. Woodley was around a year and a half ago. They both have wins over you, though. The Woodley one was a little weird. You obviously injured your knee. Do you see where they're coming from? Do you see why they're a little upset, or do you feel like you have a better case than them?
No, I can see where they're coming from. But I'm trying to get mine. I'm trying to get those big fights. I'm not worried about who I upset. I don't think they should be upset with me. They should be upset with whoever, who made the decision. I'm trying to get in the biggest fights and I'm trying to get the belt around my waist, and you're not gonna get to the highest echelon of the sport without stepping on some toes.
Right. Lawler's last fight against Rory McDonald was mind-blowing. I mean, it was just an unbelievable back and forth. He showed a ton of heart, finished him in the 5th round. Bloody, his lip was all messed up. Did you watch that fight live? And if so, how did you react to it? Like, knowing that there's a chance that you can fight this man, and you're the same kind of fighter, you guys almost turn into zombies out there. Nothing can finish you. Did that, well, you were like, wow, the opportunity to fight this guy sounds like the greatest thing in the world, or, what do I have to do to finish this guy? How did you process what he did in the cage against Rory McDonald?
Yeah, I watched it live, and I was blown away like a lot of people. It was, an incredible fight. When I look at anybody in the division, that's always the question. I'm always impressed when I watch the fights. And when we signed the bout agreement, the initial psychology for me is, oh man, what did I get myself into, and how do I beat this guy? And for the first month and a half of training camp, it's, man, well, how are we going to beat this guy? Because everybody at this level is so good, so well-rounded, so technically sound. But as the camp goes on, I get more confident, and come fight week, it's all over. All the preparation's done. I just got to go out there and execute, and usually it works out for me.
I know we're still around 2.5 months away, but do you have an idea how to beat him now?
He's a man like anybody else. He's got strengths and weaknesses, and he's extremely experienced. He's super skilled. He's got great power. But I'm figuring it out.
Are you a little surprised? Like, I feel like Robbie Lawler's resurgence from this, he'd been around the sport a long time, but once, the end of his Strikeforce days were upon us, it just kind of felt like he was this mid-tier middleweight. He drops down to 170, and he's turned into a completely different fighter. I mean, you can't finish him. He's going the distance with all these guys. He's more technical than ever. He's grittier than ever. I mean, the guy is just on a whole other level. Are you surprised by this resurgence? Did you see this coming? I certainly didn't.
Some guys have ups and downs in their career, and I know that this isn't the first time that we've seen somebody come back with a vengeance. In what seems like the twilight of their career. He's always been super talented. He's got talent, and the guy is just he's a born fighter. I really think that he's matured as a fighter. I think, some of those losses and some of the hardships maybe that he had in Strikeforce, he grew from that. It's not all about your successes. It's about falling on your ass sometimes, and then what do you do? Do you learn from it, or do you let that diminish who you are as a fighter or as a person?
The reaction to this fight, sometimes when fans, media think that a fighter is jumping over a couple of other fighters or one fighter, sometimes, they bellyache. But the reaction to this fight seemed almost unanimously positive because of the idea of both of you, in this phone booth going toe-to-toe. And, we know what you guys bring to the table, your resumes, your fighting style and all that. It's an amazing thing because, like I said, if you just look at it on paper, there are things that you can complain about. Did you get the same reaction like when you were on, social media and all that? Did you get people kind of flipping out? Because that's what it seemed like. It seemed like everyone, including the media, turned into instant fanboys just thinking about this fight.
I've got a ton of great responses on on Twitter and on social media. And I think that's why this fight makes sense. Rankings wise, yeah, maybe it doesn't, but this is the fight that people want to see. This is going to be an exciting battle. They know that Robbie and myself are both warriors. We're at the top of our game, and every time we step in the octagon, we put on a show, and that's why the title fight makes sense.
Was he one of those guys that you've thought about fighting for a long time just because you have similar styles? Like, is this one that was kind of on your wish list for a few years?
Well, since he's been back in the UFC and back at 170, I didn't think about it too much when he was at 185. But yeah, since he's been back, I've definitely been sizing him up and watching, and watching his fights and his performances.
What's the vibe at the gym these days? Because now we have 3 Albuquerque natives fighting for a UFC title in the next 5 months or so. You have Dotson coming up in September, then it's you in November, and we just found out Holly Holm in January, plus, big fights for Andrei Arlovsky and a litany of others. What's the vibe these days at the gym?
And Cowboy.
And Cowboy, of course. That's yeah. He's not an Albuquerque native, but a member of the team, of course.
He's not, but he's
honorary.
He's a transplant. It's a great vibe right now, honestly. We have a new facility, which is freaking badass. A lot of people coming in. The vibe is awesome. And I think, these title fights could go either way, and I think all of us are underdogs. But honestly, I don't think that means a whole lot. I see at least a couple of titles coming back to Albuquerque in the next 5 or 6 months.
Does everyone kind of have a pep in their step because all these big fights are on the horizon?
I don't know if that's what it is.
Okay.
Or the new facility kind of. There's a great vibe right now.
What were you doing yesterday in the woods? I saw on your Instagram and all that you spent the day in the woods. What was going on there?
Mm-hmm. So Sundays we go and we get outdoors. We go do fun stuff. Call it Sunday Fun Day. Yes. And we either go up to the top of the mountains. I'm sure you've seen pictures of us training up at the Sandia Crest at like 11,000 feet. Yesterday we went up to the Santa Fe National Forest, which is about an hour and a half from Albuquerque, and then high elevation also. And did some stuff up in the woods, trained some stuff, did a bunch of balance and jumping, and just had some fun. And then we hit pads and worked some striking. And it's a work day, but it's also kind of a recovery day.
So it's interesting because your shining moment in the UFC, I think, came when you became interim champion. But everyone wants to be the real deal champion, no asterisk. But it was such a weird fight because it was the Nick Diaz fight, and you were so criticized for it. Like your entire career, you're this beloved figure, beloved fighter, and then you have this one performance where it takes 2 to tango. We all know that, and you get this wave of criticism your way. Are you just relieved that you're getting a title shot, a real title shot, not an interim title shot, so that you can almost right that wrong? You can almost, put that in the rearview mirror. You can become a real champion. You become the full-time champion and not have to, say that your one, title victory in the UFC came on this night where, for better or worse, you received all this criticism from people online.
Well, for me, it's two different issues. The interim thing is something that I definitely would like to, get rid of. I want to be an undisputed, legit UFC champion. My belt, they don't take the belt back. I still have that belt, and it's sitting in my son's room, and I want that to be a legit belt. As far as the Diaz fight, honestly, I don't think anything short of a rematch with him would change things in anybody's mind. Not that I'm not worried about it. You know what I mean? I went up there and I got the win. And I don't know if I've said it on your show, but I've said it in interviews in the past that I've agreed to that rematch a couple of times. I don't know if he's ever coming back, but I'm definitely, to answer your question, I'm definitely excited to get in there and get a chance to be the undisputed UFC welterweight champion.
If you win this belt, do you think the perfect scenario would be to fight him and put that to rest for once and for all?
Honestly, I think I would rather fight. Fighting Nick Diaz comes with a lot of other stuff. There's, the fight in itself. Hey, it's a tough fight. He's a tough guy to game plan against and to fight. but the fans, the social media aspect, and all that is just
it's exhausting.
I'd have to get my head right for that. But of course, I'm not looking past Robbie Lawler. But if I get this belt, might like to avenge a couple of losses, to the next couple guys that you had mentioned earlier,
right?
Hendricks and Woodley.
Who do you think wins that fight? You fought them both.
If I think Hendricks, I just think Hendricks he's been the distance in 5-round fights. He's able to keep the pressure on. Woodley, he's a great fighter and he's super explosive. But I think that if Hendricks keeps the pressure on him and doesn't let him, explode and then rest and explode and then rest, which is what he likes to do, Hendricks will win the fight.
Who wins, Holly Holm or Ronda Rousey?
I don't know, man. I'm not counting. I know a lot of people are counting Holly out, but I think that Holly has the style with her footwork and the distancing that she utilizes to actually stay away from Ronda. Ronda's fought great strikers in the past, like Kat Zingano, but Kat's style is a forward pressure, get in close, use knees and elbows, kind of Muay Thai style, which didn't work out well for her because she got within grappling range or clinch range of Ronda. Holly Holm, on the other hand, she likes to stay on the outside. She doesn't like to get in the pocket and where Ronda would have the opportunity to grab her. So, I definitely see why Holly's the underdog. I like Ronda. I'm a fan. I think what she's done is awesome. But I think that if anybody has a shot at beating her, it's Holly.
One last quick thing. Do you have to go to Melbourne for, pre-fight media and all that stuff? And if so, when and how many weeks or days before the fight will you go come November?
I do. I think we're headed out second week of September. We'll be out there for a few days. And then as far as going out for fight week, I don't know. It could be up to 2 weeks before, depending on how much media they're going to have us do.
But you're not worried about the time zone and all that stuff?
No, I usually acclimate pretty easy. I always have a hard time coming back. My sleep schedule and everything's all messed up. But anytime that I fought overseas, I've acclimated pretty well. And I'm actually looking forward to that aspect of the fight. I know that some guys have a hard time with fighting fighting overseas, acclimating to time, all that stuff. And I've done it so many times and been successful so many times at it. I feel like that's an advantage for me.
Well, can't wait for it. Appreciate the time, Carlos, as always. November 15th. It's actually November 15th in Melbourne, but November 14th here in the United States. It takes place Sunday morning over in Australia, but the same pay-per-view time here in the U.S., Canada, all that good stuff. So nothing to really get acclimated to as far as North American MMA fans are concerned. They are shooting for the record 70,000 plus at Etihad Stadium in Melbourne, Australia. And it's a fight that a lot of people have been talking about for a long time, Carlos Condit versus Robbie Lawler. Appreciate the time, like I said. Best of luck to you in training. Looking forward to it very much. We'll see you out there.
Thanks, Ariel. Take care, man.
There he is, the natural-born killer himself, Carlos Condit. Big fight for him, UFC 193. The majority of that card was announced last week. Mark Hunt versus Bigfoot Silva 2, arguably the greatest heavyweight fight in UFC history. That's a rematch of a fight that was somewhat marred by the post-fight drug test from Bigfoot Silva, so they get to do it again. Jake Matthews also on the card. He's a young stud out of Australia. John Vellante versus Anthony Perosh. Daniel Kelly on the card. Richard Walsh and Steve Kennedy have a bit of a rivalry. Kyle Noak, also an Australian. And then the other big one, Robert Whittaker, going up against our guest at this time, the one and only Michael Bisping. Michael, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Ariel. Very well.
Well, I appreciate the time. I know you were working last night, so you had a busy weekend. Right. So thanks for carving out some time for us. Let me just ask you, let's get it out of the way, because I know you...
Hold on, Ariel, before we go any further, can I hang up and can you call me back? Because I'm getting some terrible feedback.
Absolutely.
Or some kind of noise down the line, so I do apologize. But would you mind calling me back real fast?
We'll do it right now.
Thank you, sir.
All right. We are going to call Michael Bisping back. I wanted to ask him right off the top about the stuff I spoke to John Pollock about, the Frankie Perez stuff. You know, he was working as an analyst on the Fox set alongside Karen Bryant and Dominic Cruz. And, you know, as is often the case, you receive criticism when you're on TV speaking your mind, and that's just part of the game. And no one understands that better than Michael Bisping. There's no doubt about that. So I just wanted to ask him about that right off the top. And I said to him last week, he has turned into somewhat of a MMA darling after such a long career. It seemed like, you know, after his win over Tau Slatis, a gritty win, a win in which his teenage son was in his corner. It was just a great moment for him back in the UK, in Scotland this time, the first ever UFC show in Scotland. He's won now 2 in a row, and it seemed like, you know, there's always going to be those people that are going to not be a fan, but it seems like things have changed a little bit, certainly from the UFC 127 days. So he always keeps you on your toes, that Michael Bisping. And now, speaking of UFC 127, he's going back to Australia. Different circumstances this time around. And we talked about this on The Beat, this booking. Now, I thought they'd go in the direction maybe of like a Vitor Belfort or, you know, who knows, even Anderson Silva if he, you know, if Michael was willing to wait until February. Of course, now they know he's going to be out for a year, and maybe that wasn't ideal. But this one caught me a little bit by surprise. I do believe we have him back. Michael, are you there?
Yeah, that's right.
Is that better?
Yeah, no, it is way better. Sorry about that. I don't know what you're paying those schlubs that work for you.
Yeah.
But you need to up it to at least a minimum wage, Ariel.
No way. They don't deserve it. Okay, so let me ask you about this, Michael, because I know you were talking to some people online about it, so I want to address it right off the top, and then we can move on. The Frankie Perez thing, you're working, you know, you get paid to speak your mind, and I appreciate that. Even if I don't agree with it, I like that you're being honest and you're not sugarcoating things. Did people misunderstand you, or do you actually feel like, you know, look, go ahead.
100% they misunderstand. Listen, I respect everybody that steps into the octagon because it's such a hard thing to do for a living. And the world is made up of many, many different types of people. And not everybody has what it takes to be a UFC fighter. And that's just the facts of things. And if he doesn't want to do that, he wants to pursue another career, then great for him. And I really respect his choice to do that. And, of course, that is his decision. My opinion, you know, being a fighter and a competitor, for me, that's the best living I can give my family. That's the best way I provide for them. So I always struggle to understand why people say, I'm not going to do this for my family. For me, I'm willing to put myself through that for my family. This is my best opportunity. He got a $50,000 bonus last night on top of his wages. He probably earned $70,000. You know, I don't know where else he's going to earn that type of money in one night. Listen, it wasn't an insult. You know, it's just, you know, I don't necessarily agree. Good for him. I'm sure he's got a great head on his shoulders, and who knows, maybe he's got an illustrious career in something else away from fighting. I wish I had. And if he has, then God bless him and all the best. Certainly didn't mean to be insulting, but my mindset as a competitor, this is the best way I could provide for my family. And to be honest, not many people have this opportunity. He has the opportunity in front of him. He had a beautiful performance. He got a knockout of the night, and he's walking away. For me, it just seemed a little weird, but good for him. God bless him.
One last thing on this. Do you almost feel like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't? Because we always want our analysts to speak their mind and be as honest as possible. At least I do, whether or not I agree with their thoughts. And then sometimes, and you know this, I mean, it's no secret, sometimes, you know, the Fox broadcast people are like, oh, you're shilling too much, you're too positive, you're trying to sell the UFC. Here you are saying, you know, look, I you know, this, hey, that's his thing, more power to him, it's not my thing. And then you get heat for it. Does that discourage you at all?
I'm trying to give you an honest answer. That's why I'm pausing.
Please. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no, I do completely. To be honest, no, not really. I mean, Fox, the people that always encourage me to give opinions and to be opinionated, they don't want people to sugarcoat it. Of course, you know, there's a fine line between being truthful and being abusive, and they don't want anybody to be abusive for the sake of it. And I wasn't being. I was just saying, listen, I don't understand that mindset. No, it doesn't bother me, really. I've got very thick skin. I'm used to people not liking what I say. I'm 36 years old, Ariel. It's not the first time it's happened.
Okay, fair enough. I figured you would say that. Okay, let's move along. Let's talk about Whitaker. I said while we were trying to reconnect with you that I was surprised by this matchmaking.
Yeah.
Not for the market, not for the card. It makes total sense given your history there and his history there. But I thought after your win over Taos Ladies, you'd get someone like a Vitor Belfort in that range so that I think, you win one more fight, you get the title shot. Finally, what you have been fighting for so long, almost a decade, in my opinion, the best fighter in UFC history to not get a title shot. And I thought they were going to go in that direction. The time is now to do that, to steal that phrase. And they don't go in that direction. Were you surprised? Did you not like the booking either?
You know what, to be honest, I was somewhat surprised. But then now I've had time to let it settle in. It does make sense. Obviously, my manager, Audio reached out to the UFC and Joe Silva and wanted a bigger name opponent. But the reality is that everybody's booked up, and I don't like to sit on the sidelines and wait. I want to fight as frequently as possible. There's a big fight there, at a stadium. First UFC event in Melbourne. Yes, he's not as highly ranked as I would like, but he's still, still a solid opponent. I think he's ranked number 12 in the world. He's on a 3-fight win streak. He just knocked out Brad Tavares in 45 seconds. So for me, it's just about keeping the momentum going. Yes, it's not the marquee name that I was looking for. It really isn't. But for me, it hopefully will be another win on a good show, and I will still continue my march towards a title shot.
Do they need Michael Bisping now more than ever, especially for this card where they're trying to sell 70,000 seats? Because you look at Condit, Lawler, they don't love doing media. You look at Bigfoot and Hunt, same with them. And then we get to you and Whitaker. I kind of feel like you're going to have to carry this bad boy. Michael? Apparently he doesn't want to carry the bad boy. We'll get him back. Technical difficulties coming out of Orange County. But I do think that is a valid point. Michael Bisping is going to have to do a good amount of media. He's a big name. I definitely think that the market there, like we can't even understand what's going on over there. To us, I saw some people, and it's valid from a North American fan perspective. You're saying, wow, this card is going to sell 70,000 seats. I'm not sure if it sells 70,000 seats in North America, but we can understand this is the other end of the world. And their draws are a whole lot more different than our draws, and their interests are different. And just the fact that the UFC is coming there for the first time is a draw in itself. The fact that those 3 letters are, setting up shop, that Octagon will be there after this long-standing ban in Victoria against cage fighting, that's a very big deal. That's a huge deal for the market. And sometimes just the UFC coming for the first time is enough. You don't need the biggest card for the first time. I mean, UFC 129 was a big deal. I get it. And other cards were a big deal as well when they came there for the first time. But sometimes you don't really need that big deal. What is going on over here? Is there something weird going on near Crick? I feel like there was like some sort of power outage in the middle of the interview. Can anyone talk to me? Can you guys even hear me? Yes. Can we get Michael back? Wow. Okay, so no one can actually hear me right now, but it sounds like we have lost all connection. Someone continues to wreak havoc on this place on a Monday afternoon, which is incredibly exciting. I'm alerting Mr. Bisping of this horrible turn of events. Live, I'm not actually talking to anyone, I think, but we are working on correcting this issue. And like I said, I really think that the people who are criticizing this card don't really get what the UFC is dealing with over there. Everyone keeps telling me that Melbourne is this amazing market, especially when it comes to sports. Like they love sports more than anything over there. And they are so excited. I was at UFC 127, and that was a Sunday morning card, and that crowd was one of the loudest crowds that I've ever been to, and I've been to some loud ones since, but I recall sitting in the Acer Arena on a Sunday morning, no less, when Mark Hunt won. What else? Bisping won on that card as well. The main event was John Fitch versus BJ Penn, ended in a draw. But that crowd was unbelievable. And I feel, and then that was Sydney, and now here we are in Melbourne. And everyone keeps saying that Melbourne is the sporting capital of the world, the sporting capital of Australia, blah, blah, blah. I feel like they're going to react very favorably just to the UFC being there because they've been waiting so long. And credit to Tom Wright, who heads up the UFC's Canada office, New Zealand office, and Australia office. Credit to him. I mean, one of his first orders of business when he was hired was to get Ontario done. And then he gets Ontario done, and their first show there is 55,000 plus at UFC 129 at the Rogers Center. And then, he's doing his thing, and they've had successful shows in Canada. They had a really good one in Halifax. They had a pretty solid one last night in Saskatoon. And at the same time, he's trying to get things done in Victoria. That was the big draw in Australia. And look what he's doing. He gets the ban lifted. There was a ban that they can't have cage fighting events in Victoria, in the province of Victoria. They could only have MMA fight cards in a ring. Got that ban lifted. He's great with the politicians. Fellow Canadian, of course. So he got that ban lifted and right away promised that they will bring a mega card, a gigantic card to the area. And they've done just that. There was a report out that they were trying to do Ronda Rousey on that card, but that's not the case. Of course, we know by now that she'll be fighting at UFC 195 against Miss Holly Holm. Still trying to get Michael Bisping, I suppose. So I guess while we have some time, maybe we should just do the Inside the Vault. I don't even know if the guys can hear me back there. Oh, you can hear me? Any sign of the internet? What happened? Did someone pull the plug on the whole building? Wow. So apparently what they're telling me here is that the entire building has lost power. Although there's lighting in here. Maybe it's just internet and phone connection. Yeah, internet and phone connection. That is very disappointing. Yeah, screw Inside the Vault for now. I could talk a little bit about while we try to get Bisping on, and hopefully we'll get him on rather quickly, and then we could go to Dan Hardy, who has some pretty big news. We also have Mike Winklejohn coming up, and Efrain Escudero, who I want to talk to about coaching the Ultimate Fighter Latin America. The Holly Holm Ronda Rousey booking was a fascinating thing on Friday to witness because the UFC announced on Thursday that Ronda Rousey is going to be on Good Morning America to announce big fight news. No, they didn't even say big fight news. Excuse me. They just said big news. And it was, okay, well, I think of, what is she going to announce? We kind of know that she's fighting Miesha Tate next, so that's not a huge deal. And I don't know, she's got some movies coming up, so maybe she'll do that. I mean, what kind of news would warrant Ronda Rousey waking up at 4 o'clock Pacific time, right? To, go promote or announce something on Good Morning America. So she does just that and drops the bomb that she's fighting Holly Holm, not Miesha Tate, not Amanda Nunes, not Chris Cyborg, which was a long shot and a pipe dream at this stage. Until Chris Cyborg fights at 135 pounds, it's not a possibility. Until she actually makes that weight in Invicta, I would be very surprised if the UFC booked her in a 135-pound title fight. That's just the reality. So she comes on there and announces the Holly Holm. And once again, Ronda Rousey does a fantastic job of building up her opponent. And only she has to do that because, A, she's talking to people who don't know who her opponents are. And she just kind of gets it. She's just from that pro wrestling background where it means more to build up your opponent. If you build them up and beat them, then the win means more. if you make them seem like yesterday's news or garbage or not on your level, then the win doesn't really feel as big. That was the case with Bethe Correia. That's what she did so well in that fight. By Friday night, people were like, is Bethe Correia crazy enough to beat Ronda Rousey? She was certainly taking her serious. And, people were, I think they were surprised. I think they forgot the fact or overlooked the fact that Ronda Rousey, an MMA fighter, a women's MMA fighter, just went on Good Morning America, as mainstream as it gets, to announce a fight booking. She didn't even announce anything else. She just announced a fight booking. That's unbelievable. That 2 years ago, that would have sounded like the most outrageous thing in the world. Completely unbelievable. Completely impossible. Out of left field. She did it. Just to announce a fight booking. And then, of course, when you consider the fact that Miesha Tate didn't know, that Holly might not deserve it, that she only fought twice in the UFC, they haven't been the most impressive performances of all time, there's certainly a lot to gripe about. But first, let's recognize the fact of what just happened. And it's part of this Ronda Rousey movement that's bigger than anything we've ever seen. MMA fans are so interesting because, one second. Oh, I can't even talk. I was telling New York Rick something, but I just realized that we don't have internet. Can he speak to me? Okay, the internet is still down. I just wanted to tell New York Rick if he can alert Michael Bisping that via his cell phone that we're having this issue, so he's not just sitting around.
Can do.
Thank you. Yeah, he just said he can. So hopefully we're trying to fix this situation. Unfortunate, kills me, piece of my soul dies, but I'm trying to ignore that. It took me almost a week to get over last week's show, the technical problems, and well, this almost seems like it's worse. Anyway, MMA fans are very interesting when it comes to Ronda Rousey because they sort of act like the fan base of a band that, they were there from day one. And they get a little weird about her, hitting the mainstream. They feel weird when ESPN talks about her versus Floyd Mayweather. They feel weird when she's, on these red carpets selling these movies, all that stuff. But let's not forget the fact that MMA fans were very slow to accept Ronda Rousey. I mean, MMA fans were belly aching, from here all the way to, Washington State, complaining that she didn't deserve the title shot, that she was getting pushed because of her looks, all this stuff. I mean, they weren't really on the bandwagon from day one like the fans in Seattle were for Nirvana back in the day. But look, I was as surprised as anyone, definitely surprised, and unfortunate that Miesha Tate had to find out that way. I think she definitely deserved, I know she definitely deserved a call beforehand, a text, something. But that's the fight business, and I understand why they're doing it. I would love to see Holly Holm get a couple more fights. I think for her MMA game, it would behoove her to get a couple more fights before fighting the greatest of all time right now in Ronda Rousey. She's the best female fighter in the world, no doubt about it in my mind. A couple more fights would be tremendous for her, but that's not the case. That's not the game that they're in with Ronda right now. They need fresh faces, fresh storylines, fresh opponents. And when you have a background somewhat like Sarah McMahon, she had the Olympic thing. Holly has the boxing thing. These are fights that you can sell. These are fights that people can get behind. Just reading resumes, not watching their previous fights. Sucks for Amanda Nunes, and I don't know if I necessarily agree with the idea of booking Amanda Nunes versus Miesha Tate. I really don't. But that might be what Amanda Nunes has to do and Miesha Tate has to do, just given the landscape. Look who else is out there. The Ronda Rousey show. Okay. You know what I think we should do as we wait here? Mr. New York Rick?
I'm here.
Do you have questions? Maybe, so that we don't waste time.
I've got
people in the in the replay can get the questions, and hopefully this will be up sooner rather than later. So right now we can't connect with anyone, right?
We cannot.
So bizarre. What did they say happened?
The internet in the entire building is down, or at least in our studio.
And you reached out to Michael and Dan?
I have.
What about the other two?
I'm hoping that I don't have to, but I will.
Will probably be. I mean, it's already 10. Okay, let's answer some questions, and then we'll get to pray a little bit. in the meantime and see if this all gets figured out.
Okay,
Very
first
unfortunate.
question.
Yes.
You're not going to be able to see them, so
Oh, because of the connection problem.
Yeah.
That's fine. I don't need to
I'm going to read them out.
Yeah.
Next for Max Holloway, a few people, including Brian Stan after the fight, suggested that there should be a rematch following Oliveira's injury. Do you agree, or do you think Max should now face a higher-ranked opponent? If not a rematch, then do you think Edgar should be the fight that he takes next?
This is what we were talking about with Chapman. And by the way, we're not speaking for nothing here. This is being recorded, right?
It is.
This will all be on the replay?
It will be.
Okay, because then I just, ranted for 10 minutes to myself. What was that, Alex?
He's saying that it's not going out on YouTube right now,
Of course.
so we'll have to do the replace.
After the fact.
Yep.
But iTunes, all that stuff.
iTunes. It will be everywhere.
Yes. Okay. It's a very tough one. I don't know if there's a right answer. I like the idea of Chad Mendes versus Edgar. I think that's a fight we've been thinking about for a long time. And I actually think it makes sense from a featherweight landscape perspective. But I also like the idea of Frankie Edgar versus Holloway because I think that's a perfect number one contender fight. I don't know if you go with Mendes right away if he beats a Frankie Edgar. I think if Holloway beats Frankie Edgar, he deserves it. And I think if Edgar beats Holloway, he deserves it. I mean, he deserves it right now. So I kind of feel like those are the two options, and I wouldn't be mad at either.
I would love to see Edgar and Holloway. I really have been impressed by Max Holloway lately. I think that he's ready for this next step. I mean, it just seems like his confidence, his body language, the way he's speaking, everything about it makes me think that he's ready for it, and I think that that'd be a fantastic fight.
So you go with Holloway over Edgar.
Holloway versus Edgar.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean Holloway Edgar over Mendes versus Edgar.
Yeah, I like that fight.
So what do you do with Mendes?
That's a tough one. That's a really tough
Did
one.
you do Jeremy Stevens?
I'm okay with that as well. I mean, and I saw Frankie Edgar on Twitter said that he's okay with Jeremy Stevens as well. So, I mean, you could really do a combination of those four in really any configuration. And other than, I don't think you want to do Stevens and Holloway. I think you want to put each of those guys against either Edgar or Mendes. Just because I feel like Stevens, Holloway are two fresher contenders, and you don't want to knock them off or one of them off by pitting them against each other. So you put them up against Edgar and Mendes as kind of the proof that they're ready to take the next step.
I definitely feel like they should put whatever variation of those fights in December at the same time as the title fight because the timing works out. They're all ready to go. They all want to fight. And I just feel like that will all eyes are on McGregor Aldo, but now all eyes will be on the division, and you want to boost up the division, especially that division which hasn't had times like this before. Put them in December. Tough finale. You have tough finale. You have the 194 card, or even the Fox card in Orlando.
Yep. Our next question: Oliveira Holloway. Holloway receives a win, but one can't really say he beat Oliveira. Yes, he was definitely winning. And under Unified Rule 16A, if an injury sustained during competition as a result of the illegal maneuver is severe enough to terminate a bout, the injured contestant loses by technical knockout. That seems to cover the situation, but the legal maneuver, which left Oliveira injured, was as much his own doing, if not more so, than anything Max did. Should a move by a fighter, which results in his or her injury, really lose by TKO after 90 seconds? Obvious differences, but what if a fighter just tore an ACL by tripping 90 seconds into the fight with no contact or attempt as such by an opponent? Should that also be considered a TKO?
Look, my colleague Mark Ramundi spoke to Sean Loeffler, and we've had him on this show before, the individual who injured his ankle right before his debut in Omaha, Nebraska, just a couple of years ago. It was in 2012, I believe. That is not a loss because he never actually stepped foot in the cage. But I believe if you step foot in the cage, they say, let's get it on, whatever they say, and then for whatever weird reason you can't continue, I kind of feel like it's a loss. If it's 1 second in, 10 seconds in, 8 minutes in, how else do you do it? I mean, it's not Holloway's fault. He needs to progress. He needs to move on with his career. I mean, I suppose a no contest could be argued, but I don't really have a problem with that result.
Yeah, I think it's too much of a subjective thing if we start going by, let's say I kick you in the leg and then 5 minutes later I don't touch you, but you fall down. you could say, oh, he planted his knee wrong, and it wasn't anything I did, or that could have been an accumulation of damage, and you're getting into hazy territory. I think if you step in their cage, and if you're injured or knocked out, you lose by TKO. I think that's the only fair way to do it. Although it obviously is heartbreaking for a guy like Oliveira in this case, because it seems like that wasn't really anything. That fight could have clearly continued if he hadn't been hurt. It wasn't like he was put in a bad situation. He was actually getting up from Max Holloway being on top of him. So I think that's the only way you can do it. Even though sometimes in this cases like this, it seems like it wasn't much of anything Holloway did, more so an injury.
Yeah, I mean, Holloway actually started the fight looking pretty good, and he's continued to look very good. I mean, what a progression. Super young guy. This is why you can't...
He's one of my new favorites. He's the new BJ Penn.
Get out of here.
I mean...
Just because of the accent?
The Hawaiian... There's something about that warrior spirit.
There's something about that accent. I could listen to that accent all day long.
Yeah, I know you like the slang as well.
Why not? Yes. There's something about it. He also has this baby face. He's great. He's come a long way. And it's a great story because he's one of those guys you're not quite sure what to make of him when he starts. But then you look at his age. Man, I mean, the guy's, 23 years old?
Yeah.
You're not even in your prime yet at 23. So
not even close. He's got many years.
Look at Carlos Condit. Carlos Condit's 31. Look how much he's done. And then you think of a guy like Max Holloway and the amount of fights he's had thus far at just 23 is pretty amazing. So
I think he's the youngest. I believe that I think Michael Carroll might have tweeted this out, that he's the youngest to 10 wins in the UFC.
Wow,
which is impressive for all the names that have come through the UFC.
Of course,
that at 23, I think he's the youngest to 10 wins.
It was very bizarre, or it was very disturbing watching what happened to Oliveira, because it was sort of a delayed reaction, and then you find out that it's a micro tear in his esophagus, which sounds horrendous and very painful. You just see that, and I didn't like it. What a bad way to end what had been a pretty enjoyable card up until that point. By the way, I have this routine now when I'm home for some of these cards. This always happens. I'll make it up until the co-main event. I'll fall asleep after fighting it, and then I'll wake up to the post-fight show. Doesn't matter who's on it. I just wake up to their voice and be like, what the hell just happened? Did the fight end? And then I have to rewind it and rewatch it. It happens to me every damn time. It's very frustrating.
It's the kids.
It's the kids. This one was an hour earlier, but still tough.
Speaking of this card, we're staying on this card. There's quite a few questions. For me, Neil, this is from our friend James Glory. For me, Neil Magny's was the performance of the night. Knowing that Silva would have clearly studied Maia's defeat and built his game plan around it, Magny showed that he learned and developed from the loss, and in getting back on the golden path of victory, outclassed Silva in a very promising performance. So the question is, excuse me 1 second, I'm about to sneeze.
Bless you.
Thank you.
That's good radio right there.
So,
like right into the mic.
Yeah, I could have killed my mic.
I mean,
but I was
wow.
like,
you ever hear of a cough button over there?
There's so much going on right now.
What is going on? For God's sakes, I'm about to shoot myself. Go ahead.
Just how much does this victory tell you about Neil Magny and his future in the division? And after yet again having the false narrative about his being the next big thing being exposed, what does this tell you about the disappointing and sadly sporadic Eric Silva?
Okay, there's a lot to untangle there. I will say, I don't know if it was the performance of the night. Certainly a very impressive performance, because when you come back after suffering the first defeat in what was 7 fights, I think it was, against Damian Maia, completely get outclassed, go all the way to Brazil. I mean, you can understand if the guy's going to take a load off and say, you know what, I'm going to take a little break here, regroup, figure out what went wrong, and then see when I want to come back. This guy comes back on 3 weeks' notice. And really, I mean, I think he said it on the post-fight show. He had a 4-day training camp. I mean, the fight was 3 weeks later, but the actual time in which he had to prepare for the fight, way less than 3 weeks. He said he had a 4-day training camp, which is insane. And he comes out and he performs like that. Forget about the physical roadblocks coming back from, a fight that you had just 3 weeks ago. The mental ones as well. I mean, that to me might be the toughest part. This is an athlete. He's done this before. If you come from athletics, you can compete 3 weeks later. But it's the mental side. It's getting over the fact that you just lost. You are, very close now to getting into that title talk and regrouping, not doubting yourself, still being confident. He said that the Maia loss was actually a good thing, which you hear before. I mean, we've heard that time and again. But A, it gets the monkey off your back, and B, it might humble you a little bit. You might think that your crap don't stink if you start beating all these guys, especially coming from these fights where you're down, you're getting rocked, and then you're coming back. I mean, you're on fire at that point. And the Maia fight was almost his heat check. It's like if you play basketball and you've hit like 6 threes, and now you take a three from the half court line, that's a heat check. The Maia fight was a big jump for him. That was his heat check. It didn't work out. No sweat. Come back, beat a guy like Eric Silva. You're back on your winning ways. Eric Silva, I don't know what to make of this guy. I mean, it was said online. It's worth saying here. His body looked completely different. Was that a product of the new testing? Who knows? I mean, they're not doing a lot right now. That's been well documented, but his body looked different. Is that a product of him not taking this fight camp seriously? Was he injured? I don't know what it was, but once again, a guy who I felt had a ton of potential, and for whatever reason, wins one, loses one, wins one, is not able to realize it. That was my takeaway from the fight, but there were a lot of great performances. Like I said, Le Tourneau was great. Patrick Cote had a very fun performance. Frankie Perez, who we've talked about a little bit on the show, had a great performance. So I don't know if it was the performance, but what impressed me the most, once again, was him being able to come back from that mental setback against Damian Maia and rebounding the way he did. You live back there?
What's that?
Are you live back there?
Yeah, I'm just trying to connect with our other guests as well.
Oh, did you speak to them? If you want me to keep talking, I'll keep talking.
Yeah, if you could.
No problem. Yeah, the other guests, like I said, we still have, I still want to talk to Michael Bisping if we can get him. I don't know how long I'm actually going to sit here, but we can get to the questions and inside the vault and all that stuff, and hopefully that will buy us enough time. Then Dan Hardy, and then we want to talk to Efrain Escudero and Mike Winklejohn. Lots to talk to Coach Wink about. Condit, Dotson, Cerrone. But the main one is Holly Holm. That's his prized pupil. That's someone that he has been with for quite some time. That is someone that he has been grooming for this moment. Also worth noting, Patrick Cote calling out Hector Lombard. I don't know if from a ranking standpoint it makes a lot of sense. I know Rory mentioned he was interested in fighting Lombard in January when he's cleared after the suspension. I think that might make more sense. And if you look at the rankings, it really, there aren't a lot of guys out there for Rory right now. So I wouldn't hate that. But I love when guys call people out. That's well documented. We've talked about that 1,000 times on this show. And I give him ball. Look, the guy had balls to. I don't give him balls. I give him props for having the balls to call out a guy who's tough, who's looked great at 170, who's higher ranked. Even if you don't think that you're going to get the fight, just call someone out. Just say something. Holloway, I want to fight Frankie Edgar in Hawaii. Perfect. Give us something to talk about. Give the people something to get excited about. That's a big part of this sport. Who's next? What's next? Where's the fight? What's at stake? It never works if you just say, I'll leave it up to the UFC. History has shown that it never works. So I liked it. I thought it was great. He was loving himself, feeling good. Patrick Cote is a guy who was left for dead, released from the UFC. Who thought he would enjoy this kind of resurgence at 170 as well? I think he's now 4-1 or 5-1 since dropping down to 170. That's great. Speaking of Canadians, happy trails to Canadian veteran Joe Dirksen. Almost like 70 fights that we know of on his resume, his pro record. He announced his retirement. El Dirte, Manitoba's own, announced his retirement last week. Man who, of course, fought in the UFC, been around the block, done his thing, and says he's done. And I like it. I like when a fighter can say that. Go out on his own terms. I don't know if we're going to see a lot of guys in this day and age get to that many fights. Kind of a throwback, if you will, but wanted to mention him as we're talking about all these great Canadians who competed last night in Saskatoon. All right, we got any more questions? Or is he still talking on the phone? All right, sounds like he's still talking on the phone. Let me mention that the UFC officially announced a card that we had reported on earlier in the week, the South Korea card that is November 28th in Seoul, South Korea. Every time I think of Seoul, I think of Ben Johnson, who, of course, is responsible for one of the great moments in Canadian Olympic history and then one of the lowest moments ever, won the 100 meters, and then was stripped because he tested positive for steroids. I always think of him when I think of Seoul. Anyway, the main event is going to be Benson Henderson versus Thiago Alves at 170 pounds. I love the fact that when I reported this, all these people kept asking me what weight, even though it's in the article. Like, it's so hard to actually click on the damn link. And then they're like, but what about Thiago Alves saying he's going down to 155? Didn't you report that? And I explained it in the article. I mean, I just love this. So, yes, it's at 170. Yes, Thiago Alves' manager, Malkikawa, told me that they were dropping down to 155, but this is a big fight. They liked it. They're putting that on ice. It's still in the cards. It's still something that they're shooting for. But a main event fight against Benson Henderson coming off a loss against Carlos Condit is something that they're down with. And Benson was open to 170 or 155. He's coming off a great win, inspiring win, one of the great moments of 2015 against Brandon Thatch in his welterweight debut. They were open to big fights at 155 or 170. And they got this opportunity, and they said, yeah, let's go for it. They're just pretty much interested in big moments at this point. Big fights, big opportunities, big stages. He wanted to fight in South Korea. His mom is from South Korea. He wanted to main event that show. They've given him that. He suffered an injury not that long ago. He was on this show talking about it. Didn't want to really divulge what was going on there, and that's fine. I can respect that. Talked about it as much as he could. He gets his wish, and Thiago Alves gets a big fight, regardless of weight class. I was surprised when I heard that Thiago Alves wanted to move down to 155. I mean, this is a guy who we all thought had trouble making 170 back in the day. Not so much these days, but remember the Matt Hughes fight and that run a few years back? I always thought that he'd be, more inclined to go up to 185, not 155. For now, he's sticking around at 170. They also announced Mirko Cro Cop versus Anthony Hamilton. I like Cro Cop fighting in Asia again. I think that makes sense. I like the Mitrione idea better. I think that's a juicier fight. It makes more sense for both guys. I know Mitrione's coming off a loss and Cro Cop coming off a win, but that rule doesn't really apply these days. Good to see Cro Cop back. I like the Mitrione idea better, though. I really like Jorge Masvidal versus Dong Young Kim. They also announced that. I think that's a lot of fun. And, Masvidal, speaking of guys with balls, he wanted to fight Matt Brown, and then he said, all right, I'm not getting that. Give me Kim in South Korea. He asked for this. Coming off his first welterweight win as well. So that's the Korea card that they announced officially last night, but if you're on MMA fighting, which we can't be right now because of our internet problems, you knew about that already. More questions? Not yet. Anyone? Bueller?
I am here.
What's going on?
So internet is still down. We tried to do a little funky different way to get the guests on.
Yeah.
But there was feedback. It wasn't going to work.
Darn it.
But we're still trying other ways. Don't give up.
I'm not giving up. And so it's the internet and the phone.
Well, the phone is it's connected to the internet.
It
so
is?
It's down. Yeah.
It's the same service, or is it one of those internet phones?
It's an internet phone. It's VoIP, so it's not hardlined in.
We don't have a real hard line?
Well, we do, but it wouldn't be able to connect to
the show?
Our TriCaster.
Okay. Let's pause the questions. Let's go inside the vault.
Okay.
April 2008 is the date. I spoke about this with Roger Huerta. My very first on-camera interview. Over 7 years ago, in his hotel room, dating the Octagon girl Ariane Celeste at the time. And funny thing about this, I was with my good friend John Raffman. We were there to actually record an interview in which Ariane Celeste was going to interview Roger Huerta, kind of a play on their relationship and all this stuff. And Ariane was doing some stuff for MMArated.com, the late great MMArated.com. And when I walked in, I was nervous. I mean, wow, this is a chance to be with a fighter in his room. I mean, woohoo! Right before UFC 83 is a big deal for me. And we were just kind of shooting the breeze. And my man, John Raffman, who was kind of preparing for the interview as well, the one with Ariane and Roger, just started recording us. And the conversation was pretty good, but you'll see it's not your typical Helwani interview. Anyway, conversation was fine, and we thought, all right, can we use this? We asked Roger. He was cool with it, and it ended up being my first ever on-camera interview for MMA Rated, which was my real first job in MMA media. There was Jerry Park, but that was me trying to do my own thing. This was my debut, so to speak. So it's April 2008 in my hometown of Montreal, of all places. Here's my interview with Roger Huerta that we spoke about last week on the show.
Hey, Roger, guys. I'm Ariel. Nice to meet you, man. How you doing? This is John. Nice to meet you. Thanks for doing this.
I just wanted to relax, really.
Yeah.
For once, just like,
5 fights, man, in 1 year is insane.
I know.
Yeah.
What people don't understand is that when you fight someone that's making their debut in the UFC, is that those guys have nothing to lose but a lot, and they want to prove what they're made of.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, they're going to come out and show them that I belong in the UFC.
Right.
And so those are the most dangerous ones.
Right.
You know, and I faced a few of those.
Yeah.
So.
Like the Guida fight, that was like sort of the cherry on top, I guess, for you, because the rest of the guys were sort of, like the Crane, Halversons.
I love the fact that Guida had just fought Marcus Aurelio. I don't think that should have been a split decision. I think that was unanimous, and just beat the living tar out of him. And obviously Marcus was ranked like 3rd in the world or something like that, and he had beaten Gomi at one point, and had lost, I guess, by decision. So you know what I mean? Like that guy was up there.
Yeah.
And then Clay just, did what he did with the guy. Then, and also, when Clay had fought Griffin, I mean,
that was,
I think, in all honesty, and I have nothing against Tyson. I like the guy; he's a great guy. But watching the fight, I mean, at a fan standpoint, and even at somebody that I'm a big fan of the sport. That's the thing. I'm a huge fan of the sport. Yeah, I'm like, there's no way that Clay should have lost that fight. He won that.
Robbed.
So it was a good fight.
It's good that you finished it too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of his fights have gone to decision.
Yeah, all the fights exactly. Right. All the fights have gone to decision. This one was like, it's a done deal. I beat the guy. We used to talk.
Really?
Well, yeah. I think one of the first nights I went out in Vegas. I went out with him.
Really?
In his car, he picked us up. Me and Justin took us to Trist, I think. And yeah, we're all having a good old time, and then now he's calling me out, so it's kind of
But is there beef there, or
I've never had any beef with a guy. Never. I've always.
Does he have beef with you? That you are fighting at?
I really don't think so. I don't. Well, you know what? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. I don't know anything about him. I don't know what caused him to say I want to fight Roger instead of the title.
Yeah, it's true.
The time that he impressed me like the most.
Alvin Robinson.
Yes.
Yeah, that was it. When he was like a back against the wall, they needed to rush it, and he's just like, I finish fights.
I mean, he just like stampede through that dude, and that's when I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And
Robinson I think that was his first fight in the UFC, so maybe he had like jitters or whatever.
But then Robinson fought
George Gurgel
and beat the tar out of him.
Yeah.
But then he fought Diaz, and Diaz did that.
Yeah. It's weird.
I was like,
your whole division is messed up.
That was like, I'm like, whoa, son. That's interesting. And then
Diaz I'd love to hear your take on Diaz too, because he's Nate, because he's like calling out everyone. Surprised he hasn't called you out, and he's doing well.
I think his brother called me out.
Really? That's not gonna happen.
Actually, his brother did call me out. I wasn't planning on fighting in August, really.
Oh, really?
I kind of didn't want to fight in August, and I was more planning on fighting like in November. I think I told you that, and then that was kind of like the okay, let's do it.
Let's get it on.
Let's just do it, and I think that who wins that fight, which I will.
Nice.
what's it called? Will be the number one contender.
Yeah.
We're good friends. How we met was through PR tours for the UFC. When I was before my debut, I had fought, and then after my debut, I started doing like media tours for the UFC, but for the Hispanic media type stuff.
Right.
Like we're trying to get the Hispanic market, and so they ended up getting her because she's a Latina. And then they got Diego Sanchez as well.
Right.
And so us three, we had gone, for sure was in Miami, right? Yeah.
Miami and Houston.
Miami, and then we did Houston.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's where us three were like, buddies and shit.
Okay.
And then,
stuff.
Stuff. Buddies
Oh,
and
right.
stuff.
Yeah, no, it's the internet. Go crazy.
Okay.
Go nuts.
So, no.
Yeah.
No, what's it called? So, yeah, that's where we all met and became friends.
There it is. How about that? Two lovebirds doing their thing in the hotel room. Sacred ground, if you will. So that's the interview that I referenced last week with Roger Huerta. Just got an update from one of the guys here. Apparently there is an outage of sorts. The entire building. But only an internet outage. That's why I got lights and stuff here. So we will keep trucking along, answering questions. Hopefully that will buy us enough time, and hopefully our guests are still available. Look, I like being as honest as possible with the audience. It is really disheartening when this happens, because this show, above everything, is on my mind. From the end of the show, 4:30 Eastern, till the following Monday. I'm trying to think of the best guests. Reaching out to those guests, booking those guests, making sure. they can tell you I'm a pain in the ass when booking these guys, and they take 20 minutes out of their day to come on the show, and now you tell them, oh, I'm sorry, it's a real bummer. So that's the part that bothers me the most. I know this is being recorded and you can watch it after the fact, but it's just, telling someone to devote 20 minutes to you and then not coming through is very disappointing, or devoting that 20 minutes and then there being a technical issue is very disappointing. But for now, hopefully we can just flip-flop the show, get through the questions, and then hopefully those people will be available on the back end and we can talk to them. So let's get back to the questions.
Okay, first question up. Frankie Perez retiring after a win. What are your thoughts on 26-year-old Perez retiring after his impressive KO win against Stout? Do you believe that fighters retiring at an early age to avoid potential brain trauma could become a trend in MMA, similar to how it was in the NFL?
Well, let's be clear. He didn't say that's the reason why he retired. He did say, I don't want to put my body through this, my family through this. He alluded to that, but he never actually went out and said, this is the reason why I'm retiring. I thought it was great. Here's a guy, look, everyone has different reasons why they fight. Some fight for money. Some have 4 kids, and, they need to support these individuals and their wife and their mom and their dad and their brother, sister. Some fight just because they need more money in their bank account. Some fight because they actually love, going in there and competing, and this is the sport that they're best at. Everyone has a different reason why he or she fights. And I don't think it's up to us. I'm cool with people weighing in on it like Bisping did, but look, he made it. His goal was to make it. He made it. He won. He knocked out a legend. And, a guy who's highly regarded, a pioneer, if you will, in his home country. He thinks to himself, all right, that's a perfect way. I think that should be celebrated. More often than not in this sport, we talk about on shows like this, people who stick around too long. People who fight well past their prime, well past, the spotlight. And here's a guy at 26 who picked up his 10th pro victory, his first inside the octagon in his second UFC fight, and said, Mama, I'm coming home. I'm done. I'm good. I can't top that. Perfect. I thought what he said was great. It was coherent. It made sense. That kind of thing should be celebrated. What do you think of it?
I feel I'm of two minds about it. I think it's great that somebody's able to, do an actual analysis of their life and their career and say, I've reached the pinnacle and or not the pinnacle, but I've accomplished the goal I wanted to accomplish, and now I feel comfortable walking away from it. But at the same time, I just feel like the things that the points that Bisping raised were not completely invalid in the sense that, well, the goal to be a champion and all these things that you get into the sport for are still attainable. And if you were in the sport in the first place, then there had to be a point where you were aiming for those. I guess goals can adjust and things like that. But it seems like it almost seems like we're losing somebody prematurely rather than when they've accomplished everything they've wanted to accomplish.
Yeah, I get that. Like I said earlier. By the way, can we not switch camera angles? Is that why we're always on this one and not going to you and stuff? Is that
We can switch, but we can't go to me.
Why not?
Just
Is your hair not ready? What about what about this camera angle?
I need to switch it on the network. I can switch your camera angles.
Yeah,
Oh.
we can switch to you.
How come we're not doing that? Freshen it up. There it is. But we can't see your wonderful face.
I wish.
So I get what you're saying.
Yep.
Mark Henry told me, like I said, in Connecticut, this is the guy. This is the future. Frankie Perez, watch out for him. And even hearing Frankie say, like I saw his interview backstage, he's like, I've never felt better with my hands.
Yeah.
I've never been more confident. I was like, oh, wow, I can't wait for your next one. Oh, wait, there is no next one. So it's a very bizarre thing. I get it. I get the way you feel. But to me, for a 26-year-old guy to have, the plan figured out, and he spoke to Chuck Mindenhall. He said that he figured it out the day before the weigh-ins and called up his whole family, except for his dad. Didn't want to talk to his dad about it. Called up, his siblings, his mom, and told them this is going down. Right? I mean, that's putting on a hell of a lot more pressure on your shoulders. But also, it's like, wow, you have the presence of mind to figure out. Look, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to put my body through this, my family through this. I think it's very commendable. Look, there's a lot of reasons not to do this. Sometimes I don't understand why people do this. There's not a lot of money at the bottom. There's not a lot of sponsors at the bottom. There's not a lot of opportunities at the bottom. There's a lot going on at the top, but it takes a long time and a lot of pain and suffering and time and effort to get to the top. You won that fight in the UFC? Awesome. You knocked out a guy? Awesome. Do your thing. I see the Wi-Fi thing popping up here. Is this a sign of things to come?
Yes, I think we may be getting back online now.
Okay, well, we'll keep going. Oh,
Let me read you a question and
Yeah.
then step away so I can see what we can do.
Okie doke.
Nikita Krylov. Is Al Capone a top 15 light heavyweight now? 3-fight win streak, all first-round stoppages, and 4-1 since moving down to 205 pounds. Who should he fight next? This person suggests Little Nog, Fejao, Alir Latifi.
I like the Latifi one, and I believe it's pronounced Krylov. I like the Latifi one. He's a fun fighter. He's got a great background. Sean Al-Shadi wrote a great story about him and what he's been through in the Ukraine. A man of very, very, very few words. There's no doubt about that. He's an interesting cat, no doubt. And his fights are interesting as well because they're not exactly the most technical. They're not exactly textbook. And yeah, he did hold on to the cage. You can't overlook that. He did grab the fence, but he survived a pretty tight submission. Came back, and he's always winning in the first round. When he wins, it seems to be always in the first round. Super young fighter, great Sherdog profile pick, Al Capone. I like Nikita Krylov. I always enjoy watching him fight. How far is the flight from the Ukraine to Saskatchewan? What a journey that must be. So yeah, I like the Latifi fight a lot. I'd like to see Latifi get I don't know if this is the big name fight that people were searching for, but I like that fight. I think that makes sense. So I think my internet is working here. It's potentially exciting. Let me see if the stream is working. I don't want to get too excited at the moment. You know what happens when we get too excited. Oh, I see something. No, it says video was interrupted. But I could still, surf the web. I trust they'll tell me when they are ready to rock and roll. Some of it's working, some of it's not. All right, any other questions? Can you jump back on? Or are you busy? Apparently you're busy. How dare you, Mark? How dare you? Let me see if I can get... Oh, I can get some questions myself. Let's see what the people are saying. Message to Ariel, Rick, and the team. Not to worry. These things happen. Hope you get it fixed for next time. Best wishes and respect. The always positive James Glory.
I love that guy.
Yes. Oh, you're back.
Johnson versus Dodson 2.
Yes.
Is Johnson versus Dodson 2 the most underrated title fight ever? It seems like nobody is talking about this fight when DJ is in a league of his own in that division, fighting the man who came closest to knocking him out on the feet, Flash knocking him down twice in their first fight.
What's the question?
Is it the most underrated title fight ever? And then he's going on to say, how dangerous Dodson is in the fight.
Underrated. I don't know if it's the most underrated. I mean, I think it's more of a product of the way people view John Dodson and Demetrius Johnson, and also the way people view the division. I'm trying to think of a more underrated one. I mean, I could think... Maybe. I feel like there's one that I'm missing. I'm looking forward to it. I think this title fight would have been better served. Look, this card, UFC 191, is like the card that didn't need to happen, and it's fine. They've cobbled together a pretty good card in a very short amount of time. This fight, Arlovsky-Mir, but again, Arlovsky-Mir, did that need to happen? Did Rumble Johnson-Manoa need to happen right now? I guess, and who knows what's going to happen with Rumble Johnson and his issues. They're looking into it, his rant on Facebook, and then a little bit on social media, which he's deleted since, but still worth looking into, no doubt. John Dodson versus Demetrius Johnson felt like the perfect fight for like the Australia card, right? I mean, you put a second title fight on that card. It's in a big stadium. It's a big stage. A lot of people talking about it. I don't know. There's something about these Labor Day cards. Something always seems to be off. Last year with the whole Joe Soto, Renan Barão situation. A couple years back, UFC 151. That was a curse card. 176 wasn't Labor Day, but it was early August, so that one doesn't really count. I feel like there's another one that I always think about. There's something about these. It just feels like 191 was one of those cards that they had on the calendar. They tried to get Weidman on it. They tried to get Verdum on it. Tried to get a bunch of fights on it. Didn't work out. So once again, they put Johnson in the main event. I don't think they wanted to put Mighty Mouse in the main event. I don't think he wanted to be the main event. But his biggest curse, the worst thing he has going for him, is the fact that he's just so damn reliable. He's the most reliable champion in the UFC, by far. He's just always available. And as a result, he's always going through everyone. He's like, who's next? Who do I got next? Dodson is his best fight since maybe the last Dodson fight, because at least Dodson can sell the fight, talk up the fight, promote the fight, and he started off pretty damn good against him in Chicago when they fought a couple of years ago. Now, is he back to 100%? Is he ready? Did he need one more fight? Did he not look great against Makovsky because they're friends and he didn't want to finish him? I mean, who knows? But it's definitely the best fight they could put on, whether Johnson wants to admit it or not. I don't know if it's underrated. I feel like for a Demetrius Johnson fight, it's actually pretty highly rated. Seems like the internet's working. Where do we stand now? Can a brother get an update? We are making progress. All right. Is New York Rick able to ask me another question? No? All right, I'm going into the well myself. Oh, he's there.
Got another question.
I'm going to play true or false here. After unifying the belts, McGregor's first defense is against Edgar. I'll go with true. Edgar's first defense is against Aldo. What does that mean? Edgar's going to beat McGregor? I don't know if I can answer that at the moment. Holly Holm makes it past the first round. True. Frank Mir somehow gets a title shot in 2016. I could see it. True. Fedor fights Verdum in 2016. I could also see it. True. UFC 200 has 2 title fights. Definitely true. McGregor Aldo does 1.2 million buys. I'll say false. Weidman fights Jones. I'll say true. How about that? Okay, what's your question?
within 40 days, is UFC 192. Why do I feel like it's almost being forgotten? I put these questions back to back because the theme of being forgotten or underappreciated. Nobody is talking about Cormier versus Gustafsson. Do you think people don't care so much about that fight, or is this the post effect of UFC 194 and 195 stealing all the attention?
Who are these negative Nancy's that you are?
You could almost say that they're positive though, because they're trying to get shine for the things that they feel are not being appreciated.
Yes, I guess, but I don't feel like 192 is being overlooked. Do you?
No, I mean, 40 days to me is a long time in the current MMA cycle.
Yeah.
So I think it may not necessarily be forgotten, but it may not. It also may not necessarily be as celebrated and promoted as far out as 194 or 195.
Yeah, I guess, but I don't know. I think it's just because A, they just recently announced those cards, and B, I mean they're bigger fight cards. I think everyone on those cards that you speak of, 191 and 192, would admit that. I don't know. I feel like when 192 was announced, people were talking about it. Gustafsson, Cormier, maybe the controversy around it all, and also they were talking about Woodley, Hendricks. Certainly they were talking about Evans, Bader. I don't know. I don't feel that way. There are certain cards that you get excited for months in advance, and then there are certain cards that you know it's 2 weeks away, and like, all right, I'm going to start digging into this one. Not all cards are the same. Not all cards are mega cards. Not all cards feature the two biggest stars in the sport right now, and that's Ronda Rousey and Conor McGregor. So I think it's silly to compare them. How's the phones? Give me something.
I'm thinking they're going to be back up in
And by the way,
minutes.
to all the people who are saying they're boycotting the show or they're not, let me tell you something. Please, hear me out. Do not come back. And this is not me pulling the Dana White. Don't just if some technical difficulty is enough to make you not watch the show for a week or two, please, I don't want you ever watching the show. Ever. Don't come back. See you later. Go do something else with your time. Go watch something else. You can kiss my butt. I work too damn hard on the show to listen to that kind of crap when we're trying to figure things out. You think we're doing this on purpose? Think this is happening on purpose? No. So get the hell out of here. Continue.
I want to say that we do want you back.
No, we don't want you back. I am speaking on behalf of myself and the show when I say that, and I'm giving myself free reign to speak on your behalf. We do not want you back.
Oh no.
Yes. Now continue.
UFC Seoul. Henderson Alves headlighting the Seoul card over Stun Gun Masvidal. They're questioning this. I know Bendo's mom is Korean, but Kim is a big name in South Korea. If the UFC is putting Poirier Duffy above Miocic and Rothwell in Ireland, shouldn't Kim headline the event in Seoul?
Again, what kind of a nitpicky question is this? These are the wrong questions to be asking me at this juncture. This just sounds like I mean, what? You're telling me you'd rather see Kim Masvidal 5 rounds over Benson Henderson and Thiago Alves 5 rounds? Come on. By the way, I saw a stat of co-main events. Like, I think it was Michael Carroll who put this out, that there's a case to be made for co-main events being 5 rounds too. I think that's a little much. But something like every co-main event has gone the distance in the last, I don't know. Did you see the stat? Am I dreaming?
No. It's. I think that slot specifically has the highest rate of decisions out of the rest of the main card slots. I think I wouldn't necessarily mind 5-round co-main events.
Really?
I think we've discussed this before, and I was all for it.
5-round co-main event. Maybe if it's deemed a 100%, no doubt about it, not just Guy Misha Tate, maybe someone will get it, 100% number one contender fight. Maybe then.
Yeah, I mean,
but do we really need 2 5-round fights on the same card?
If they're good. I mean, I would have liked to see what was the co-main event on Saturday? It was.
You mean on Sunday?
On
Neil
Sunday.
Magny, Eric Silva.
Yeah, I would have liked to see 2 more rounds. See if somebody could get a finish in that.
But the night is long enough as it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it should be subjective. Kind of like the way the UFC has started putting title fights above other title fights, regardless of weight class. I think that it should be a subjective thing like that. If this is a no-brainer, needs to be 5 rounds, then make it 5 rounds. Co-main event. I don't like the idea of never. It can never be 5 rounds. Sometimes I want 5 rounds in the co-main event.
I want to get behind the idea of getting rid of the co-main event word. How about that? I think that's a more worthy cause than this cause. Anyway.
Okay, let's get something positive.
Yes, for God's sakes. I mean, are you trying to piss me off here? Are you trying to make it worse?
This person from Twitter. Holly versus Ronda. What are your thoughts? Followed by, I think you touched upon that pretty
extensively.
And then this person is also more excited to see the 115-pound title fight. How about that?
That's cool. Hey, okay, this is a good plug. I don't know if we could show. Can we show the Kyle Haas thing?
No.
Oh, damn it.
Oh, wait. No, I'm wrong. We can.
Okay, well, my good friend Kyle Haas, who's brilliant, Hollywood Haas, Haase on Twitter. He's the one who made this.
No phone thing? Oh.
What happened? You're on the mic here. I can hear you. Well, now you can't run away. Come back. What'd you say? I swear to God. I heard you say no phone thing. Oh.
Yep.
What'd you just say?
I said no phone thing. Oh.
What does that mean? Is it gone for the whole show?
Well, I mean, the whole show so far.
Well, we still have an hour left.
It's not up yet. That's all. That's
okay.
That's my.
But they're working on it. Are they working on it?
They are.
What if we call via Skype? Just Skype phone.
We don't have Skype up.
Oh, I thought the internet's working.
I think it's only the Wi-Fi. I don't even know. Let me try. Let me try some creative solutions.
Okay. Well, this brilliant man, Kyle Haas, who made this lovely picture over here. See that? The Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman one. Wait, don't go to the comic yet. Yeah, he went to this. He did this. Tremendous. What else did he do? Oh, yeah. He made the Ariel Helwani, Benson Henderson thing over there. You can kind of see it. He's unbelievable. At Hollywood Haas. He's been working on this comic for the last 3 or 4 months about Ariel Helwani, which is my my ability to report or put together fights beforehand, much to the chagrin of the UFC bosses. And he put together this comic strip. You can see right here. There it is. It's a great comic strip. Let me read it at the same time because I think he did a fantastic job. Even New York Rick makes an appearance. You can see this comic over at Kyle Haas, HAASE.tumblr.com. All right, let's go to the first thing. Look how amazing. Go to the first little box there. Look how amazing the detail is. It's unbelievable. On the set of the MMA Hour, the world's most watched MMA program. I like the E at the end of program. And here's me quoted. And we have Eddie Alvarez on the Skype machine. Eddie, after the Cowboy loss, who makes sense for you next? And then Eddie says, nobody in particular. I just want the best in the division to stay active. Womp, womp. And then I say, how about Benson Henderson? That fight makes a lot of sense. And then he says, yeah, that makes sense. I like that name. And then fast forward, tech-free show. Until then, I say peace. I'm out of here. La-di-da-da. All right, let's go to the next one. New York Rick, are we clear? There's New York Rick, all clear. I put my plaid shirt away, get my whatever that thing is called, the judge's cape. I feel like there's a name for that. Anyway, I go into a special room. Ta-da, ta-da. I am the law. Ariel Helwani. Look at that. And then I love this picture here of Lorenzo, the next one. Lorenzo, Dana White, and Joe Silva with their bout agreements. It's actually the one after that. And then after that. There it is. And then in Vegas, they're like, it's been announced. Benson Henderson versus Eddie. It's just great. I love it. Their face is great there. That is good work. Nice job. Kyle Haas. So it's Kyle Haas, KYLEHAASE.tumblr.com. That's where it lives. And it's just fantastic. He did a great job. Look at the detail on the set. He's got the Condit picture up there. Is that the one? Nope. It's unbelievable. Well done. I love that guy. He's great. Okay. More questions? Or do I have to fish them myself? Hopefully they're about to tell me that the phones are working. We could get back to Michael Bisping. Yes?
More questions for you.
Okay.
I'm realizing now how negative they were. So
Jesus, is this a reflection on your current state of mind?
No, well, these were selected much earlier in the show when we were rolling along.
Tell me about your experience at NXT this weekend.
It was awesome. I could not recommend going to see a live wrestling event more highly. It was a lot of fun. And I didn't even like miss commentary. A lot of times when I'm at like a fight event, like a UFC event or, kickboxing or whatever the case may be, you really start to feel like you're missing the commentary because there's lulls and kind of, silence and downtime. But the WWE event really flowed nicely, and the crowd chants and all that stuff.
How did you even end up there?
A friend of a friend works for WWE.
What?
And had
what
some
do they
tickets.
do?
They're in...
Is this like a top secret thing?
You don't like to talk about these things.
Why not? Just tell me his job.
It's actually a she.
Okay, even
and
better.
She works in like talent relations.
Talent relations?
Yeah.
Why don't you hook us up with some guests? Could have had a guest today on the show.
No, not that end of it. The other way, like entertainers like getting involved with the WWE.
Oh, did she get the Green Arrow guy at SummerSlam?
I'm sure they were involved with that.
That's interesting. So they get like celebrities to the events.
Yeah.
So basically,
like connecting with the the
so she got you. She got you to the show. You're the celeb.
Yeah, that was it. I had a run in.
So for anyone who doesn't know, NXT is like the spin-off, but not so much the spin-off. It's like the AAA of WWE. Yet they have some veterans.
Yeah, Kevin Owens was there. He was fighting the next night on SummerSlam,
which I don't like. It's like either you're in or you're out.
Oh, he gave it his all though.
No, I know, but from like a character standpoint, it feels like he's living double life. Okay, fine. So you have that, and then you have legends like Jushin Liger, and then you have Samoa Joe, who, if you've been following wrestling, I mean, this guy.
Now I looked on Wikipedia, and apparently Jushin Liger is 50 years old.
Yeah, who knows if it's the same guy, but
that's pretty incredible. That if he was 50, then God bless him. He looked great.
Well, so's the Undertaker in that range.
Yeah, but he was doing a lot more athletic kind of moves than...
Absolutely. The one thing I'll say, I did tune in, more so because I was curious about the crowd, that they were able to sell out an arena like Barclays Center. I heard that they released 200 tickets on Saturday and sold them out in 20 seconds. So I was curious about the Brooklyn crowd and all that stuff. My one gripe was that it felt too rehearsed. It felt too scripted. Like, it's clear that it's the minor leagues to a degree. Some of the characters, they're figuring it out, all that stuff. But when the minor leagues are presented on a stage like that where it looks like the big leagues, it's hard to remind yourself that this is, for the most part, a group of athletes who aren't quite ready for the big leagues. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get that feeling from the audience. Now, I'm not watching, on TV with the tight camera angles and seeing that, very up close. I'm kind of just seeing the outlines of moves and seeing all that type of stuff from the crowd. And also, I have this, raucous, 15,000 plus person crowd that's around me, and you get really into it. So I didn't get that sense. Like, I thought it was fantastic. Everything looked awesome, and all the matches were a lot of fun. But I could understand that. I'm sure if I went back and watched it on the network, it would.
But the crowd was fantastic.
Oh, it was bonkers.
The experience was
it was something that I would recommend for anybody. I could not recommend it more highly.
Even if you didn't know who these people were.
I don't know enough. Like I wouldn't
feel like you're a closet wrestling fan. Like, you keep dropping these little clues here and there. I mean, you're showing up to NXT events. It takes a special kind of wrestling fan to do that.
I love the idea of like wrestling as a business. Like I listen to all the podcasts because I like the idea of, like, I like when they talk about behind the scenes type stuff. I like when they talk about work versus shoot stuff, but I don't really follow the wrestling. But I like the wrestling business is very fascinating to me.
Yeah. And there are a lot of similarities.
To the fight business. Sure.
Well, to the MMA business in particular. Yeah. More similarities between wrestling and MMA than wrestling and boxing, just based on how the organizations are structured and the promoters and all that stuff. I know Brock compared Dana and Vince McMahon last week, and that got people all in a tizzy. But, yeah.
No, I do like that aspect of it.
But let's give credit where it's due. About it. If you don't understand what NXT is, that's fine. I'm telling you, it's a minor league to a degree. Kind of a quasi-minor league spin-off promotion that's not that old, and that was able to sell out a major league arena like the Barclays Center. That's incredible. That is amazing. How about my man Kevin Owens dropping that promo? Did you see that promo where he called the wrestling fans in Florida the John Cena of wrestling fans? Did you see that?
No.
You don't even know what's going on. Well, you can't look at you. You show up to NXT just because it's the cool thing to do in the borough, and you don't even know what's going on.
Nah, get out of here.
What do you mean? You don't even know about the promo?
I know about the promo. I'm there to watch a great show. I'm not there to watch every promo that they've ever cut in their lives.
This is maybe the best promo since the CM Punk Las Vegas promo.
Oh God! Wait, that happened in Las Vegas?
You know which one I'm talking about? When Cena got thrown against the table, and then he sat there and he was like, "Hey, Cole Cabana," that whole thing.
Oh, I thought he did. I thought the pipe bomb was the famous one. There's another.
The
one.
most famous one is Las Vegas.
It's more famous than the pipe bomb.
This is the pipe bomb.
Oh. Yeah, I know about that. I didn't know it happened in Las Vegas, but I know about that. I think it was
actually the MGM. Either MGM or Mandalay. Anyway, so you went to NXT. You loved it. How many T-shirts did you buy?
None, but
not one. Nothing. No souvenir.
I'm not buying T-shirts. I don't buy like.
Not even like an ironic one. Something.
No, I'm not there to be ironic. I'm not there to make fun. I'm not there to become a super hardcore fan either. I wanted to see a good show, and I saw a great one.
Okay, and then to make matters worse, you went
wait.
You went to a Major League Gaming sort of event?
No. Major League Gaming is like an organization, like a league. This one was not MLG. This one was, I think, Riot, the makers of League of Legends, hosted this one. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong about that, but this was the North American Championship for League of Legends.
Which is North American Championship, and what is League of Legends?
League of Legends is a computer game that's the most played game ever in history. Across computers, consoles, all that stuff.
The most
played downloaded game.
Because it's an internet game?
Yeah.
It's an online game?
It's an online game.
And what is the premise of said game?
You control a character and you fight on a team. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay, so it's called League of Legends, and people actually watch other people play this game.
So they packed MSG to sit.
Crazy.
The people from MSG to sit in an arena and watch people play on computers.
The hell is wrong with this world? Come on, be honest. Is it interesting at all?
I thought I had a great time as well. I went into this weekend thinking I'm gonna hang out with my friends and have a decent time.
Did you go with the same people?
No, different people.
Okay.
And I had a way better time than expected at both of these things.
Which one did you enjoy more?
It's hard to say because I really enjoyed them both. It's very different. Like the crowd for WWE is insane. Like the atmosphere there and the energy of the arena is completely different. Whereas I was more interested in actually what was happening on the screen with the video games because it was more exciting. It's a championship. It's
You were more into the video game screen? What?
Yeah,
that is crazy.
It's real drama. It's not a performance.
So you're able to understand something's going. It's like watching a movie.
Well, no, the WWE is more like watching a movie.
No, but I mean, in a movie, you're watching a guy going through wherever he is, killing people. That's a movie.
It's like watching a sports event. It was closer. I'd say it was actually closer to a sports event than the WWE was.
What? The WWE was in a ring. It was.
But this was real competition.
How many teams?
2 teams. It was the finals.
So what is it like? Is it everyone playing at the same time, or is it like the IFL?
There's 5 guys versus 5 guys, and they're all playing at the same time.
Against each other?
Yeah.
Or separate games?
Team of 5 versus team of 5, all in one game.
And is it like kind of capture the flag where you have to kill the other people?
Well, no, capture the flag, you would have to capture the flag. Sure. This is, they're in skirmishes. So every player controls one character and they fight on the screen.
I can't believe MSG would stoop to this level.
How dare you, sir?
What a sad state of affairs over at the Mech. So how long does this last?
This was the championship.
What do you mean the championship?
This was the North American Championship.
And then they go into what? The World Series?
They go into the World Championship, where they're going to get beat by the Koreans or the Chinese.
Where were these people from?
Some of them were from other places. Like I think you're allowed to have players from other countries, but mostly Americans.
No, but like the North American? Is it like Chicago versus
No, it's
Boston?
not. It's not like that. It's it's like sponsored teams. They have coaches. They have
Get out of here.
They have managers. They have coaches. They have apparel. Like they have jerseys and stuff.
How do they introduce them? Do they come down a ramp?
They kind of walked out from behind stage and
That's boring.
gave a wave to the crowd. But no, they introduced it was like up first is some whatever the guy's name, like Ariel the Nose Helwani, and then they'd have the guy come out and there was like pyro and stuff. It was pretty cool.
And people are going nuts. Like they know who these people are.
They know exactly who these specific people are.
And what about the jerseys? Are people walking around wearing those? Like, is it, I got a Kevin Durant-esque?
Yeah.
Really?
There's the fandom for this is incredible.
Wow.
The people knew all.
How many people?
How many people competing or were there in the arena?
In the arena.
It's hard to say because they scale it differently for like different things, but it was I think it was equivalent to like a concert where like there was a
over
stage
10K?
For sure over 10K.
What?
At least 15, I have to think.
That is wild.
They sold out, MSG like a performer would.
So, are you watching it on the big screen?
Yes.
And elsewhere?
There's other.
But that's back.
We're back.
I wonder what someone will think if they just tune in now for some strange reason. What has happened to the MMA Hour? I'm just very fascinated by this. I saw a Real Sports story on this, and I find it very bizarre. I feel like it's really this is the sign of the apocalypse that people are actually into this sort of thing.
I don't feel that way. I'm kind of excited about this, and I don't even.
What does that mean? Are you going to get into it?
No, I don't play these games. It's the same thing with the wrestling. I had an amazing time, but it didn't compel me to watch or play it.
I would be curious to check it out just to see how bizarre it is. I have an open mind when it comes to these things. I'm not one of these, hoity-toity people. I think if you're a wrestling fan, you can kind of see the wrestling and all this stuff. And I really.
What do you mean by that?
I feel like all of this is sports entertainment. All of this is theatrics. All of this is good guy versus bad guy. If you're a wrestling fan, you can appreciate this wacky society that we live in and the subcultures that reside in it. I feel like people who don't get wrestling are a certain kind of person who just can't suspend disbelief. Like they can't just think outside the box. I mean, I just really feel like people who take themselves so seriously. Like I saw ESPN covering SummerSlam. I thought that was really cool. Great. They were thinking outside the box. It's a quiet sports weekend. But then I see other people commenting like, what the hell is ESPN doing? Blah, 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 blah. I mean, just relax. Stop taking yourself so serious. So I get it. I'm not trying to put these people down. I just feel like watching someone play a video game, is there commentary?
Oh, there's commentary, yeah.
Oh, wow.
This is big stuff.
Okay. I know. I saw the Real Sports story. I was blown away. I couldn't believe it. One guy was like a mega star. He's taking pictures of people signing autographs.
These guys are celebrities.
They sold out the Staples Center.
There were lots of people there saying, I'm here for this guy or that guy. They're
amazing.
They're big celebrities. And
now what's the demographic breakdown at these things?
Very young.
Very young, all males?
And I think not all males, no. So, there were a lot of females, a lot of cosplayers and things like that.
What is that?
Where you dress up like the characters.
Oh, get the hell out of here.
Oh, yeah.
There's people walking around like that?
Oh, yes.
They're walking around as the characters from the game?
How's that much different? Like, that's like
you're right.
When I went to WWE, there were people dressed up as Kevin Owens.
Yeah, I know, but are they dressed, like, what are these characters? Are they, like,
they're a little
furries?
No, not furries, but there's, like, characters that are animals and things like that.
Oh, my gosh. And when you say young, do you mean, like, sub-18?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, there's definitely high school kids and junior high school kids there.
With parents?
But there's also... No, I mean, most of them seemed alone, but there's also like, older people, older than myself, and
get out of here.
I think I'm old.
What's the oldest person you saw? Like someone in their 50s?
Someone in their 50s, yeah.
Probably there was with his kid.
Probably, but I think it skews younger for sure, but it reaches all demographics.
And how long was this, you said?
So it was a best of 5 that went only 3 fights.
Is there an undercard?
No.
It's just straight into it.
Yeah. It was a best of 5 that lasted only 3 bouts or 3, matches. So it was like, I'd say game time, it was like an hour and a half. But there was other theatrics. There's promos. There's video packages.
Promos? Like they're talking smack?
Oh yeah, they're doing interviews and the guys are like, "Oh, that guy's trash. Like he's not a good player in this specific way or this guy." And then they're cutting to the commentary team and they're cutting to people who lost earlier in the tournament who are giving their opinion on the matchup. It's legit.
So bizarre. What's the production like?
I think there's even like Ariel Hawani's of the
out of here.
The esports
Reporters.
Yeah, there's definitely guys who fill that role.
If it's that big, I would imagine there's a media contingency.
I think,
I wonder if there was.
Dare I say it? I think it's bigger than our small little bubble.
You really
Much
think so?
Bigger.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, if they could sell out. First of all, how crazy is it that they can do that at MSG and not MMA? But I get why. I mean, one's just a video game, the other one is combat sports. But I wonder what industry generates more money. I mean, I guess if you compare the video game industry to the MMA industry, it's not even close.
But there's a way to compare maybe just professional gaming, and I would have to think just based on what I saw and what I think I know, which is not as much as most. I think that they might have a bigger draw than we do.
That is bizarre. So you enjoyed it?
It was awesome.
There was never a point where you were like, "What the hell am I doing here?"
Well, again, like my friends were into it. Like I think
what does that mean when you say they're into it? Like
they play it themselves, so they know like the strategies and the techniques that are going on. So I think a lot of it matters, like what kind of crowd you're with. And for NXT and for this League of Legends championship, it was a very good crowd, and I had a great time.
What a weekend you had!
It was
NXT.
nice.
When was that?
Nice.
Sunday?
That was Saturday, and the video game thing was on Sunday.
Sunday night?
Sunday afternoon into evening.
You spent a beautiful Sunday afternoon watching people play video games.
How dare you?
It's a bizarre thing, but I appreciate the open-mindedness. I think that's it's good to check out these things.
Look, I wasn't going in thinking that I was going to start picking up the game and be a convert. I just wanted to have a good time and see a good show, and I feel like on Saturday and Sunday both times I got a
Why
really
didn't you
good
go to
show.
SummerSlam? Why didn't your WWE friend...
I didn't want to be greedy. I mean, come on now.
Wait, did you pick NXT?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
That was never on the table. I'm not famous enough. I'm not Jon Stewart.
Wait, did someone reach out to you and say, "Hey, New York Rick of MMA Hour fame, I have this," or was it a friend who said, "Hey"?
No, it was a friend.
While we're shooting the breeze here and trying to figure out the phones, why don't you tell us about your weekend last weekend? You live a very, very you live an eventful life. It's just always something going on.
Is that how you describe it, eventful?
Where were you last weekend?
I was in New Orleans for my bachelor party.
Now, before we actually get into what happened here, is it not true that you picked New Orleans over Montreal?
That is no, that is not true. My friends who are organizing a bachelor party, you do not choose your own destination. They chose.
You can if you want.
They chose New Orleans over Montreal. Now, is it not true that you forgot that I had a bachelor party?
Well, yes. I mean, how am I supposed to remember these things? I can hardly even remember, what the hell day it is. I mean, trust me, I got more problems on my hands. It was up to you to remind me. As I asked you to remind me, you did not remind me. But anyway, you went to New Orleans on your bachelor party. Was it a success? I mean, was it something that, oh, wow, the bachelor party. I mean, this is something people dream about, think about. Your bachelor party in New Orleans. Hopefully you only have one in your lifetime.
I will only have one. I love my wife dearly.
Well, I mean, just saying. She might not feel the same.
How dare you? You know what? I am.
Is he gone? Is that it? I just wanted to know if it lived up to your expectations. That's all. Look, I can't do interviews with anyone else. I actually think he didn't do that. Oh, did he do it?
Here we go.
Okay. What did you do? Did you unplug it?
They're messing around with the board over there.
But it felt like you actually did that yourself.
I may have.
I'm jonesing to interview someone, so I have to resort to interviewing you. That's how pathetic my life has become.
I think this might be our highest rated segment of all time.
Can you tell me if it lived up to your expectations?
I didn't really have expectations because I didn't, I'm not like a party person. I don't go out to clubs or to bars or anything like that. I don't even actually drink. So, I didn't have an expectation that it would be some kind of like debauched event, but it was nice. I had a good time. We went fishing. I caught quite a few fish. I happen to be an expert fisherman.
Wow. Really? You've done it before?
Never done it before,
but
wow. Okay. What they say, beginner's luck. I was quite good.
I've always wanted to fish. I've never fished before in my life. I've always wanted to go to like a very quiet. We should go. Yeah. Let's not get crazy. I had enough of you on this one day. You'll be lucky if I ever come back to this damn show. If you ever see me again. But what did you catch?
Catfish and redfish.
You love catfish.
I love catfish.
Is it not true that you used to eat catfish every day for lunch?
It's not true, but I used to get fried catfish from a local area, and it would the smells would.
Why no more?
I don't know.
Is it not
no
good
particular
for you?
reason? No, fish is great for you in general.
Yeah, well.
But it is fried.
Oh, it's fried. So did you eat the catfish?
We got to take it to a restaurant and cook up. They cooked up our catfish that we caught fresh, so we got to eat it, which is a really nice experience.
What else did you catch?
Redfish.
What's that? Tuna?
It's a white fish, so it's like a very flaky kind of.
The white fish is the red fish?
Well, you know what I mean. Like it's like a.
I really thought it was going to be red.
Not tuna. Like it's more like a. What are some crappy fish? Like it's like the flaky white fish. Cod, yeah, like cod or something like that.
Oh, that's a good fish. I like that. But it's called redfish? That's its actual name?
Yeah, because it's red on the outside. On the inside, it's
no, but it doesn't
red.
have like a real name, like a halibut or something like that.
No,
it's such a boring name. So you caught that? Did you wear an outfit while you were fishing?
I wore a tiara. No.
What I want to do is wear like one of those overalls with the high boots in the water. I guess it's called fly fishing, right?
Yeah, no, that is fly fishing. But we were in a boat. We were in a boat.
Fly fishing, by the way, why is it called fly fishing? Are you using flies as your bait?
No, I think because there's something on the line that's like called a fly or something like that.
I love fly fishing.
Wait, you love it? You've never done it?
No, I've never done it, but it just seems so peaceful.
Yeah, there's an artificial fly on the line that's used to catch fish. But it's not in the sense that it's not like a fly that buzzes around.
I want to go to North Carolina, Tobacco Road, something like that. I guess you can't do a lot of fishing.
I have to tell you, this fishing talk on the MMA Hour is...
Well, look, I'm just trying to entertain myself at this point. No one else. I do see 100 people still on the stream, and I appreciate those people very much. 133 to be exact. They're just waiting, hoping, praying that something is salvaged. And here I am. I mean, we're broadening our horizons here. Anyway,
this is how we get the new viewers.
What else did you do? Yeah, this is definitely how we get the new viewers.
I had a few drinks for the first time in quite a long time.
Okay.
I haven't had alcohol since we did that UFC fit thing. All the way back then.
Get out of here.
No, I stopped drinking completely after that.
Not once.
Like maybe a beer like one time, but I pretty much cut alcohol completely out.
Okay.
So that, I mean, obviously I didn't stay as skinny as I was back then, which was too skinny in my opinion, but I was healthy as a damn horse. But I did completely cut alcohol out of my diet, which is one great thing that came out of that. So yeah, I had a few drinks on Bourbon Street, as one would do when they're in New Orleans.
Yes.
And then...
How long were you there for?
I was there for the weekend only.
It sounds like a great time. I still feel like you'd have had a better time in Montreal.
I'm sure I would have.
How many people?
4 people. Me and my 3 groomsmen.
That's it?
Yeah.
Did you share a room?
No, we had 2 rooms. How was your bachelor party?
It was great. It was like 8 years ago, though. So no one cares about that. It was a different man, different time, different place. All right, let's get back to the questions.
Let's hit it. Okay. And now, what are these 100 people watching, I wonder? A blank screen. Okay. Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson, the tough 22 finale on December 11th. How is that for a fantastic matchup? This is again from James Glory. I'm always so positive. I believe Ferguson will be champion one day, but I and many others still believe the same for the returning Khabib. Just how important it is the fight to each fighter and the future of the 155-pound division.
I want to clear up something about this fight before I answer the question. I noted on Twitter that Khabib didn't want a main event fight. He didn't want a 5-round fight. And it was more so his team, because let's not forget, this is a guy who hasn't fought since April of last year, right? So, I mean, come on. Give the guy a break. That's fine. Wants to get the cobwebs out. Wants to get back on track. Doesn't need a 5-round fight. Doesn't feel like he needs it. That's cool. He's still taking the Ferguson fight, not turning down any fight, but just didn't want the 5-round fight. I'm okay with that. I appreciate that kind of honesty. Still a super tough fight. Ferguson has looked fantastic, and I love it. It's great that it's on a big weekend. A lot of people will be talking about it. I just hope that Khabib is healthy enough to fight and makes it to the fight. It's very unfortunate what's happened to him. Remember, this is a guy who, in his last fight, defeated Rafael dos Anjos rather convincingly in Orlando. Has not fought since. Was supposed to fight Donald Cerrone. That was announced in July. Pulls out due to an ACL injury. Makes it all the way back. Gets injured prior to the Cerrone fight again. Memorial Day weekend. Has his return delayed a little bit. Was hoping to return in October. Now it's December, so I miss Khabib. Sells his fights well, is tough. I want to see if he's the real deal. So I hope this doesn't cut short. I hope we don't have a Dominic Cruz situation on our hands here where he's gone for 3 years. And I love this matchmaking. I think we were talking about Ferguson not that long ago and who would make sense for him and Eddie Alvarez or so. And Eddie's obviously, he's coming off a tough fight, broke his orbital and all that. This is a great matchup. I love it. It's main event worthy, but he didn't want the main event. That's cool. We'll get another main event. I like it. I think it's great. I mean, honestly, you look at the division, unless I'm forgetting someone, I feel like this could be a number one contender fight. Am I crazy?
I hate this fight, by the way.
Why?
Because I love them both so much.
Oh.
Because these are two guys that I really think could both be champions.
Khabib is 3 and Ferguson's 9. So, yeah. I think it's great.
Look, it makes perfect sense on paper, but it breaks my heart. Because I think...
But it's not like... Do you agree with me that it's not like... When Amanda Nunes won her fight in early August, people were saying put Nunes against Holly Holm. And I said that doesn't make sense because you're killing off a contender in a division that doesn't have a lot of contenders.
Right.
Lightweight has so many contenders that you can afford to make these fights. And people, they don't lose... Like, it's sort of, to a lesser degree, Neil Magny loses to Maia... comes back, wins, and now you're sort of back on track.
Yeah, he's pretty much in the same spot.
You know what I mean?
I agree with you, and I also think that, let's say Khabib is the one who loses, you can easily explain away, look, he was coming off a huge layoff, he comes back, loses this fight, he gets one more where he looks healthy, and then he's back on track, and conversely, with how good Khabib has looked, if Tony Ferguson drops this one, like the Magny Maia situation, win one more, and then you're right back in there. So I don't think this is a contender killer. But, man, I hate to see it personally.
Nah. I don't feel, that close to either of the guy where I'm all sad about it and will go as far as say I hate it, but I get what you're trying to say. It's great matchmaking.
It is. Look, the fans are going to benefit greatly from this one. I think Tony Ferguson's one of the only guys who can really pose problems for Khabib in the sense that he's such a smothering grinder, and Tony is willing to take so many risks in his jiu-jitsu, both offensively and defensively, that he's going to create a fight where many others can't, including, the champion, Rafael dos Anjos. When he met Khabib last time, he got completely smothered. His jiu-jitsu game was not competitive against the wrestling of Nurmagomedov. So I think we're in for a really exciting fight there, and I think it's one of the only people who can really pose problems to somebody like him in the division.
By the way, it's Khabib. Give me a
Khabib.
Yeah, why do people say Khabib? It's Khabib.
Khabib.
There you go. Perfect.
It's the Jewish in me.
Are you Jewish? You're not
Come
Jewish.
on.
Your mom.
Yeah, well, that makes you Jewish,
yes,
doesn't
100%.
it?
I'd like to see you embrace it more. That's all I'm saying. I saw someone on the YouTube chats, the chat room, saying, "Where are the Jews?"
That's it? That's what they're saying? Where are the Jews?
That's all they're worried about.
Okay, how about this question?
Yes.
What do you think of the possible Lombard-Cote fight?
Yes.
And should Neil Magny get another shot at a top 10 fighter?
Well, of course he should at some point.
What about next, though?
Well, he's 15. Well, I tell you, I want to see them save Gunnar Nelson for Damian Maia. I know it won't happen in Dublin, but put it 194 weekend. Tough finale. Make that the main event of the damn tough finale, right? If Rick Story's injury isn't too severe, I'd like to see Rick Story versus Neil Magny. 10 versus 15.
I mean, that would make sense after Story was supposed to fight... after Story was supposed to fight Silva. So,
yes.
yeah, I mean, it makes sense that he would get that shot instead.
Now, the other question is Cote Lombard. I spoke about this earlier. I said I give Cote a lot of props. I love the fact that he called someone out. He had something in his mind, tough words, some harsh words for Lombard. I do like the Rory Lombard idea that he mentioned earlier. Lombard's not even ranked. They took him off the rankings because of the suspension. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, why not? Sure, if they want to give it to him. Look, Cote's in the, I guess, the twilight of his career, even though he's looking good. His fun fight, got fight of the night. If that's what he wants. You know what? Maybe Lombard doesn't deserve a big fight like Rory McDonald upon returning. Maybe that's part of the punishment process, right?
Sure, I could see that.
So yeah, give him Cote. He wants it.
I think that's a fine fight. And then if he wins that, maybe he fights Rory McDonald. Have we discussed the Rumble yoga mat incident?
Oh, a Rumble Johnson?
Yes.
No, I have not discussed that.
So what are your thoughts on that? This person asked specifically, any chance of Rumble getting in trouble for the yoga mat throwing incident?
Well, I guess there's always a chance. They said that they're looking into it. Let me see. I wonder if he has written on Twitter.
He apologized.
He apologized, but then he kind of deleted everything, right?
Maybe I don't know. I know he said, I shouldn't.
So
have
in case you didn't catch this one, had an issue, right? He had an issue with a woman at his gym. Went on Facebook. Was obviously fired up enough to go on Facebook and vent about it. On paper, it didn't sound like the most enjoyable experience for everyone involved. And then on Twitter, was kind of defending his actions. Okay. Now, the problem is he has a history here. He was suspended indefinitely prior to the Gustafsson fight. They were figuring out what was going on. He's been accused of domestic violence. So, I mean, this is not his first rodeo when it comes to these things. This is not his first offense, so to speak. And the fact that he came out and said it himself, to me, as I said on the MAB, it's like, you know what? Maybe some people shouldn't have social media. Maybe some people should just keep their thoughts to themselves. Maybe it's just too dangerous for some people to have social media. I mean, in this case, he kind of outed himself, but who knows? I don't know who this woman is. I don't know if she would have even done anything. So perhaps that made it look worse. Perhaps it didn't. I don't know. Kudos to the UFC. They're looking into it. They're investigating. UFC 191 is what, 2 weeks away? Less than 2 weeks away. And as of now, no word.
But
I don't know. I have a feeling he stays on the card. What do you think?
How do you feel about like the specific thing? I don't feel like it was that big a deal, to be honest.
Look, it's coming from the guy who.
Now that's the fair point there,
right? So who knows what really happened? Yes,
but if you look at it at face value, I feel like we're judging something based on his past transgressions, or it was
aggressive. I mean, even
it was certainly aggressive. I mean, it's unnecessary in the first place.
Yeah.
Why even post about it on Facebook at all? But it's not. I think the outcry was a little bit much, in my opinion. And I don't think on face value he threw a yoga mat and he was, saying, the names he called her unnecessary, sure, but it wasn't. It was just a fight. It was just a verbal altercation.
As I said to the guys at the MMA Beat, I feel uncomfortable with the idea of even breaking this down because this. No, I'll be honest, because it feels like, I mean, this is stuff that happens in their personal lives. Like, this extends way beyond the MMA scope. Yes, it's an MMA fighter with a history, with a fight coming up, with a lot at stake. But you know what I mean? Like, for us to actually dissect his words on Facebook seems, I don't know, it seems a little careless.
Well, that's why I think the investigation is the right thing. Look into it. If it turns out to have been nothing more than, this verbal altercation and possibly throwing of a yoga mat, then that's it. But if it turns out to be something more than that, then you did,
Sure.
the due diligence and found out. But,
I like the fact that the UFC got ahead of it. They
Absolutely.
put out this statement. They're looking into it. What that entails, who knows? But 2 years ago, they're not doing that sort of thing. So that's
Sure.
progress. I mean, you'd like for them to not have to deal with this at all, but at least they're policing themselves, which is what we've wanted for a long time. And it's tough. You got 500 fighters, alpha males, all these guys. It's tough, but I think they're getting better, and that's encouraging.
This has come up a few times in the past week. The IV ban.
Yes.
Now, they had recently mentioned that there will be very strict sanctions on this. Do you think the ban will help fighters in the long run, considering they will be forced to fight closer to their natural weight? They won't be dehydrated in essence and have a long career. as seen in the heavyweight division and better performances?
I think the jury's still out on that one. I think that's definitely one of the byproducts that could happen. I think there are other, we might get into this at a later date, but Herb Dean has a new product that he claims is like the oral version of IVs. It's like an oral IV. Now that presents different problems because everyone says that, look, when you use IVs, the benefit is that your stomach doesn't expand too quickly and you feel bloated, full, all that stuff. Now you're taking it orally, that could be a problem. But he claims to have patented some new product that is an oral IV but doesn't create these issues for a fighter. So maybe that's the future. There's the other thing. Back in the day, in the old days, they used to use, IVs with glass bottles. Jeff Nowitzki talked about on the show how you can get the plastic in one system in their blood. Traces of it will come up. What if they go to the glass bottles? I mean, it's super heavy, and technically you're not allowed to use the IVs, period, but will fighters resort to that? I don't know. I think it's new territory. I think that the most interesting part of the entire IV ban is that the UFC did not want to ban IVs. Both Jeff Nowitzki and others have told me this on the record. Nowitzki on this show, right? He said that they didn't want to ban it, but this is a product of them linking up with USADA. It's banned in the WADA code. We spoke to Travis Tygart about it. It's something that they cannot allow if they're going to be 100% on board with USADA. But it sounds like they only found out about this after the fact. That to me is unbelievable.
Yeah, this is a very important part of the process. So
it's super dangerous.
Yeah.
It's dangerous on two fronts. It's dangerous because A, guys use this to rehydrate, and B, as close to 100% as possible in their fights. But also, it puts a real spotlight on one of the dirtiest parts of this sport, one of the most controversial parts of this sport. And I always go back to that interview that we had with head of the California Commission. I've been talking for Andy Foster, yes. You realize I've been talking for 2 hours straight almost at this point.
If not more.
Yes. Well, I just mean like since this whole thing happened. Andy Foster, yeah, who said that the weight cutting issue in MMA is worse than the PED issue. Now, I don't know if I agree with that 100%, but something serious can happen in this sport, given the fact that guys are doing these extreme cuts. So there's a lot that I think in 20 years we're going to look back at this time with the extreme cuts, with the IVs, with the amount that people are putting back on, with the amount that they're taking off 24 hours before. It's the Wild West out there. Maybe, back to your point, maybe this makes guys cut less. Who knows? But I don't know if I'm qualified enough, honestly. I don't know if I'm smart enough medically to really understand what's at play here, because it seems like serious stuff.
It's certainly a big issue. I think it's an issue, but I wouldn't call it. I think you said it was like dirty or yeah, I don't think so.
Man,
I think
what guys are doing to cut weight, and females as well. This is not good. It's not healthy.
No,
it's not healthy to cut that much weight and then to add that much weight. It's not good.
No,
how can that be natural?
I think it is a very big issue. I think I'm almost on the same page with Andy Foster here that I think it is as big or not, if not bigger, an issue than performance-enhancing drugs in the sport because it's so widespread but done in plain sight. But that said, I think that when it is banned, I don't see it lingering as much as perhaps PEDs will. Now, there will be people who, try to skirt it and, whatever the case may be. But I think it will be more obvious in that sense that you'll see these people dehydrated on the scales and then the next night they've gained 20 to 30 pounds.
You don't think that's serious?
What do you mean? I think that's very serious.
No, but like PEDs are dangerous because of what it can do to you if abused, but also what it does to your opponent, right? I think more so in this day and age, what it can do to your opponent. You have more cardio, you're able to sustain certain things, you're strong, all that stuff, and you're able to recover, blah, blah, blah. Here, you are essentially, you're putting yourself at risk. I'm not saying by not using, IVs, it's just by the amount guys are weight cutting. So that's why I go back to the original point. If this can encourage fighters to not cut as much weight, then I actually think it's a good thing. But if fighters are still going to cut the same amount of weight and hope that they are going to be as rehydrated as when they were putting the IVs in, we might see some really depleted fighters, and then it could get really dirty, really dangerous.
I think that initially, when I first thought of this, I thought that might be more likely to happen, is where they're putting themselves in more danger. But I think with a complete ban of IVs, I think we'll see people fighting closer to their natural weight class. Which
I think is good.
I think it's great.
And I've seen some fighters come out. It's not all negative. Some have said if you can't make weight and then fight the next day without an IV, then you shouldn't be fighting. Then you're doing it all wrong. So, look, even George Lockhart said it on this show. And he's a professional. I trust his opinion. Now, there are others in his same field who will say the opposite. But if there are some people out there who believe this, then there's some hope for all of us, or at least for the fighters.
No, I agree with that. And, don't get me wrong. I think this is a huge issue. I think it's a very, very big issue. But what I was saying was I just think that you're not harming anybody but yourself in this case. Where the cheating aspect of it, I feel like steroids is very... steroids is very cut and dry in that respect. You're gaining an unfair advantage, whereas in this, it's only yourself that you're really harming. Now that's important. We don't want our athletes in MMA to harm themselves. But I think I think on the scale of what I would say is worse, I don't know what the word I'm searching for is, but what I would say is more an affront to the rules is PEDs versus this. Yeah. But in terms of danger, I'd say it's right up there, equal if not more.
We might look back on 2015 as one of the most revolutionary years in the history of the sport, or at least in a very long time, with the Reebok deal, how that affected sponsors and all that, with what Ronda did this year, and who knows what's to come, with the drug testing and the side issues, IVs, all that stuff. I mean, there's a lot of serious heavy-duty stuff going on in the sport that every year it feels like the sky's falling. There's big deals, but it's usually, fight-related. Also, what they're doing with injuries, as far as going to those centers where the pro athletes go and linking up with the Detroit Pistons and all. I mean, there's a lot of game-changing stuff going on. So yeah, it's a really interesting time.
Absolutely. Okay, we're going back to the website for some questions.
All right, I guess we got 5 minutes left until I got to make that decision. No sign of the telephones?
No. Or the stream.
It's very sad. It's a very sad day in the history of the show.
Black Monday. It can forever be known.
Well, you joke. I'm being serious.
I'm being serious as well?
Didn't seem like it.
Eric Silva.
Yes.
You may have touched on this. Is it me, or did Eric Silva look weak and sluggish? What do you make of his standing in the division?
Yeah, I did touch on it a little bit. Disappointed. I mean, I don't know what to make of his physique. I mean, that was kind of obvious. And I think we know who Eric Silva is. I mean, he's going to win one. He's going to lose one. He's going to always, for the most part, be relatively exciting. But I don't think he is going to turn in, at least right now. I mean, we've seen crazier things where guys have turned things around, but I don't think he is going to. He hasn't shown us that he's going to turn into the prospect/contender that we thought he was going to be. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people were very high on. I think he's still relative. The funny thing about him is he's not as young as a lot of people think he is.
Yeah.
He's pushing 30.
I think he's either 29 or 30.
Yeah, so I think at this point you can kind of get. I mean, it's not like he was Robbie Lawler who had shown signs of greatness and then had a downtime and now he's back. Eric, the jury was always kind of out on him, but we had high hopes given his early UFC run, and I think his look had something to do with it, and just the way his early fights went. I mean, they were explosive, they were fun, all that stuff. But he goes into that Carlo Prater fight, 13-1, 1-0 contest, right? 13-1, 1-0 contest, had just won his UFC debut, and of course, a lot of these fights are happening in Brazil, and you never really know about the level of competition. Most of them don't even have Wikipedia pages, for God's sakes. When is Justin Gaethje going to get one? Anyway, 13-1, 1-0 contest. Beats Luis Ramos. via knockout in 40 seconds. Then Carlo Prater should have probably won that fight, but anyway, it was called in Prater's favor because of the DQ. Then beats Brenneman, loses to Fitch. Beats Hai, loses to Dong Young Kim. Beats Sato, loses to Matt Brown. Beats Rhodes and Koscheck. So now, all right, what do we... And then loses to Neil Magny. Last 2 wins were solid, but it just always seems like yes, no, yes, no, yes, no.
How does Justin Gaethje not have a Wikipedia page?
Isn't that wild? I don't even know. I feel like someone's messing with him.
He has a Portuguese Wikipedia page, but he doesn't have a Wikipedia page.
That's even weirder.
Max Holloway's celebration, the sign the check gesture. Max could clearly be heard saying sign the check, Sean, to someone ringside right after the fight. Was he talking to Sean Shelby? Was this related to a bonus? Did he think he deserved a bonus for a fighter injuring himself? Was it...
I don't know. I didn't see that. Did you?
Yeah, I did see him say he signed the check to somebody.
Maybe just the win bonus.
I guess the win bonus. It would be very weird if it was for like a performance bonus because, obviously Oliveira got hurt. But I don't know. I guess you got to angle where you can.
Yeah, I didn't see it. It might have been while I was sleeping there for a second.
The routine.
Yes, the routine. Yeah, he deserves win bonus. He won. Like I said, it's and you said as well. It's a gray area. He earned it. He went through the camp. He showed up. He didn't get injured. I have no problem with it.
We've got Larry Bird commentary. We've got Taylor Swift commentary in our comment section.
What comment section?
For the website.
I thought we went to Twitter.
No. This is all from the website.
Are we done with Twitter?
Yep.
Okay. Well, it's 4:29. How about that? Right on the dot. I just got an email from one of the guys working on the show, and he said it doesn't seem like the phones are going to be up. They're still down office-wide right now. Been working on getting our systems specifically back up, but it seems like the issue is still office-wide. Exactly at 4:30, I get that news, so I guess that's that. I very much want to, above all, apologize to Michael Bisping, Dan Hardy, Efrain Escudero, and Mike Winklejohn. I was so looking forward. I even told you before the show how much I was looking forward to talking to Dan Hardy because he has a great story and doing some fun stuff, and Winklejohn with home. It's just incredibly disappointing. And I apologize to the fans who tuned in, were tuning in live, and we left them hanging on a Monday. You'll get around 2 hours or so of us shooting the breeze, answering questions and all that, but not what you had signed up for, and I apologize for that. You can hear my music. This reminds me of that episode that we did with John Jones. Before anyone's time here, in that weird studio that turned out to be... That was, up until this point, my least favorite show because... it was just a mess, but we still got to all the interviews. That was the amazing part. This is the first time, I believe, in the history of the show where we can't even get to the interviews. And I find that to be very surprising. How do we not have phone lines that work? Can't just rely on the internet. It seems like a very unreliable option. Anyway, if you're watching or listening to this replay after the fact, I do appreciate your patience. I appreciate you tuning into a very strange version of the show, but I appreciate you nonetheless. If you complained or said that you're going to boycott or said you're going to leave us, good riddance. See you later. Adios. I have nothing to say to you. Now, I want to thank John Pollock for stopping by. Great insight as always. I want to thank Luke Rockhold. Can't wait for that fight. Best of luck to him. I want to thank Ali Abdel-Aziz, who certainly brought it strong today on the show. Thank you very much to Carlos Condit. Thank you very much to Michael Bisping. One of those shows where I stacked the deck, and if it was a typical kind of show and we'd end at 2:45, it wouldn't be as tough of a pill to swallow. I'm sorry to Dan Hardy, Efrain Escudero, and Mike Winklejohn. Hopefully we'll get them on at a later date. Maybe back next week. Who the hell knows? Until then, I say peace. I'm out of here.